Help keep the show on the air. If you want to help, you can send your donation through PayPal. The email is debatetalkforyou@gmail.com or through Cash App, $Sal Showtime. Thanks for your support.
Brand disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed by individuals on this platform, the callers plus invited guests, are their own. The information you hear does not reflect the overall views of all parties associated with this brand. We encourage everyone to research all things heard live or via archive for edification purposes. Discretion is advised.
Don't touch that dial. You're now listening to Debate Talk Free Radio.
All right. Well, basically, what I'm going to do is show the listening audience that there is going to be a wilderness coming in the coming future. There was a wilderness in old time, so it's going to be one in the coming future, and we're going to prove that. It says in Malachi chapter 3, verse 6, it says, "For I am the Lord, I change not. Therefore ye sons of Jacob are not consumed." So that tells us right there that there's going to be a gathering. They're not consumed. Okay, Exodus 13 and 17 and 18. And it says, "And it came to pass when Pharaoh had let the people go, that God led them not through the way of the land of the Philistines, although it was near. For God said, lest peradventure the people repent when they see war, and they return to Egypt. But God led the people about through the way of the wilderness of the Red Sea. And the children of Israel went up, harnessed out of the land of Egypt." Now, this is the old time when the children of Israel came out of the land of Egypt. They could have went to the land of the Philistines, but the Lord had to take them through the wilderness because they needed to be purged, because they didn't have no faith. In the wilderness is where you need to gain your faith. And the first time they came out of the land of Egypt, this next time the children of Israel is going to come out of all countries where the Lord has scattered them. And let's just go read it. In Acts chapter 7, verse 37 through 39, it says, "This is the Moses which said unto the children of Israel, A prophet shall the Lord your God raise up unto you of your brethren, like unto me, him shall ye hear. This is he that was with the church in the wilderness, with the angel which spake with him in the Mount Sinai, and with our fathers who received the lively oracles to give unto us, to whom our fathers would not obey, but thrust him from them in their hearts, turned back again into Egypt." And we know that everybody 20 and up died in the wilderness, and only the kids, 19, and Caleb and Joshua made it into the land. So it's going to be some purging, and we're going to see that in this coming wilderness. Now, and it's the same wilderness. It don't change. We read, "I am the Lord, I change not." So it's the same place, the wilderness of the Red Sea. In Numbers chapter 33, if you read that on your own, you can find that there were many journeys through the wilderness. So it's many areas of the wilderness that they was in. At any rate, it says, "A prophet shall the Lord your God raise up of your brethren. Him you going to hear." So we ain't going to have no Moses like back in the day when Moses brought the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. We going to have Jesus bringing us out because he's the prophet like unto Moses. Let's go over to Revelation chapter 12, pick it up at the first verse. Revelation 12, and it says, "And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun." The woman is Israel. You go to Genesis chapter 37 and dig it out, but we ain't really got time to be concerned with that. But the woman is Israel, clothed with the sun, which is Jacob, and the moon, which is Jacob's wife, under her feet. And upon her head was a crown of 12 stars, and them 12 stars is the 12 tribes of Israel. And she, being with child, Israel being with child, cried, travailing in birth, and pain to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in heaven. And behold, a great red dragon, which is Satan, has 7 heads and 10 horns. Now pay attention to the 7 heads and 10 horns, because we're going to deal with that in the rebuttal. It says, "Has 7 crowns upon his head, and his tail drew a third part of the stars of heaven, which was the angels," but we ain't got time to search it out, "and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon of Satan stood before the woman, or Israel, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born, which was Jesus. And she brought forth the man-child, which is Jesus, who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. We're going to show that that's Jesus who going to rule with the rod of iron. And her child was caught up unto God. So we know that's Jesus, because Jesus came down, died, went back to heaven, and to his throne. We know that. And the woman, Israel, fled into the wilderness, because God changed not. And she hath a place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days. That's 3.5 years. We're going to dig that out as well. Let's go over to Matthew chapter 24 and pick it up at the 21st verse. Matthew 24 and 21, and it says, and then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. So keep that in your mind. And it says, and except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. Because in the wilderness of old, it was 40 years in the wilderness, right? But except those days should be shortened, there will be no flesh saved. So it's shortened even down to 3.5 years in the wilderness, because God changed not. It's going to be the same thing. Now, let's go to Daniel 9 and 26, because Jesus has to finish his ministry. He was cut off in the prophetic week, because he was cut off. He did his ministry for 3.5 years. He was killed in the middle of a literal week, which was on a Wednesday, and he also was cut off in the middle of a prophetic week, which is weeks or years. And you can look up in Genesis to find that out, but it's weeks or years. So he still got 3.5 years left. That is that prophet like unto Moses. Him we are going to hear, whether you like to or not. Now let's go to Daniel 9, 26 and 27, and it says, and after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself. All right, we ain't concerned with the rest of it. Let's skip. And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. That's 7 years. And in the midst of the week, in the midst of the 7 years, you shall call the sacrificing and oblation to cease. Right? So if he was cut off, he got to finish it. That's that 3.5 years in the wilderness to purge the people. And we're going to see that. Let's go back to Revelation chapter 12, pick it up at the 14th verse, and it says, and to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness. This is Israel, and to her place where she is nourished for a time. That's 1 year. Times, that's 2 years. 2 plus 1 is 3.5 a time. That's half a year. 3.5 years from the face of the serpent or Satan. Now, let's go over to Matthew chapter 24 and pick it up at the 14th verse. From 14 to 15, and it says, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations. And then shall the end come. When you therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whosoever readeth, let him understand. So let's skip to the 21st verse, and it says, for then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world, this time no, nor ever shall be. Right? Now, let's go to Daniel chapter 12 and look that up. Daniel 12 and 1. It says, because it says spoken of by Daniel the prophet, right? And it says, and at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince which standeth for the children of thy people, which is Israel. And there shall be a time of trouble, such was never since there was a nation, even to the same time. So this is that same time that Daniel chapter 24 or Matthew chapter 24 is talking about. It is the same time, and you cannot get around that. And it says, and at that time, thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book. Let's skip to the 7th verse. And I heard the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, and he held up his right hand and his left hand unto heaven, and swore by him that liveth forever that it shall be for a time. There it go again, 1 year. Times 2 plus 1 is 3.5. That's 3.5 years. We done read it 3 times now. And when he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people, all these things shall be finished. That's that same time. Let's skip to the 11th verse. And from that time the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, and the abomination that maketh desolate set up. There shall be 1,290 days. Same thing. Same exact thing. So you can't get around it. And then let's go over to Isaiah 35 now, because we're starting to see this wilderness unfold. Let's look at it. Isaiah 35 verses 1 and 2. And it says, in the wilderness, in the solitary place. You know what a solitary place is? It's called the desert. It's another word for a desert. Look it up. Shall be glad for them, and the desert shall rejoice and blossom as a rose. If we would have read in Numbers chapter 23, or Numbers 33, it would have told us, well, let's just read it real quick, because Numbers 33 tells us that it was waters. Let's read it. Numbers 33, 8, 9. And they departed from Pitharoth and passed through the midst of the sea into the wilderness. This is of old time, and went 3 days' journey in the wilderness of Elam, and pitched in Marath. So, like I told you, if you read this whole chapter, you will see all these different journeys. And it says, and they removed from Marah and came into Elam, and in Elam were 12 fountains of water, 70 and 10 palm trees, and they pitched there. And this is the same thing in the coming wilderness. Let's go back now. Let's go back to Isaiah 35. Back to Isaiah 35, and let's finish that. It says, and it shall blossom abundantly and rejoice, even with joy and singing. The glory of Lebanon shall be given unto it. The glory of Lebanon, those palm trees and all of that, that's the glory. It's likened it unto Lebanon and to the excellency of Carmel. Go see what Carmel is, the excellency of it. That's how the wilderness going to be. And Sharon, go see what Sharon is. That's the excellency of how the wilderness is going to be. And they shall see the glory of the Lord and the excellency of our God. Why? Because that's Jesus got to come back and do his 3.5-year ministry. Let's skip to the 6th verse. It says, then shall the lame man leap as an hart, and the tongue of the dumb sing. For in the wilderness shall waters break out, and streams in the desert. I mean, that's plain. And the parched ground shall become pool, and the thirsty land springs of water. Didn't we read that in Numbers 33? It's the same thing. And in the habitation of dragons where each lay, remember the place where they fled from the serpent? Shall be grass and reeds and rushes, and an highway shall be there, and a way. And then this shall be called the way of holiness. The unclean shall not pass over it, but it shall be for those, the wayfaring men, though fools shall not err therein. No lion shall be there, no ravenous beast shall go up thereon. It shall it shall not be found there, but the redeemed shall walk there. Who is the redeemed? The remnant of Israel. And the ransom of the Lord shall return and come to Zion. After the wilderness, then come to Zion. This is not saying this is Zion. This is not Zion. This is telling you you're going in this wilderness, and then the ransom of the Lord shall return and come to Zion with songs and everlasting joy upon their head. They shall obtain joy and gladness and sorrow, and sighing and shall flee away. Now, let's go to Isaiah chapter 11 and prove that. Isaiah 11 and 10 through 12. Isaiah chapter 11, 10 through 12, and it says, And in that day shall be a root of Jesse, which shall stand for an ensign of the people. That's a sign, for a sign of the people. To it shall the Gentiles seek, and his rest shall be glorious. Jesus is going to have 1,000-year rest, y'all. And it shall come to pass that in that day the Lord shall set his hand again, the second time, to recover the remnant of his people. When did he do it the first time? When he brought the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt by the hand of Moses. And when is he going to do it the next time? The prophet like unto Moses, Jesus, is going to bring them back into the wilderness and purge out the rebels and bring them into the land of Israel, just like it was in the days of old. Let's keep reading, though. It says the second time to recover the remnant of his people shall be left from Assyria and from Egypt and from Pathros and from Cush and from Elam and from Shinar and from Hamath and from the islands of the sea. And he shall set up an ensign for the nations and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel and gather together the dispersed of Judah from Israel and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth. Let's skip to the 15th verse. And the Lord shall utterly destroy the tongue of the Egyptian sea, and with his mighty wind shall he shake his hand over the river. Listen to this. And in his mighty wind he shall shake his hand over the river, and shall smite it in the seven streams, and make men go over dry shod, just like in days of old. And there shall be an highway. Didn't we just read that? For the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria, like as it was to Israel in the day that he came up out of the land of Egypt. It's going to be exactly the same, and you can't get around it. Let's go to Matthew 23 and 37 real quick. It says, O Jerusalem, thou that killest the prophets and stonest them which are sent unto thee, how often would I have gathered thy children together, even as a hen doth gather her chickens under her wings, but ye would not. Behold, your house is left to you desolate, for I say unto you, ye shall not see me henceforth till I shall say, blessed, till they shall say, Blessed is he that cometh in the name of the Lord. Jesus is the one who gathering. That's in red letters, by the way. Let's go over to Isaiah chapter 43 real quick. Pick it up at the first verse, and it says, But now thus saith the Lord, thus saith the Lord that created thee, O Jacob, and he that formed thee, O Israel, fear not, for I have redeemed thee. I have called thee by thy name. Thou art mine. When thou pass through the waters, I will be with thee. And through the rivers, they shall not overflow thee. When thou walkest through the fire, thou shalt not be burned, neither shall the flame kindle upon thee. Why? Let's get to the 5th verse. It says, Fear not, for I am with thee. I will bring the seed from the east and gather thee from the west. So we know this is in. And I will say to the north, Give up, and to the south, Keep not back my sons from far, and my daughters from the ends of the earth, even every one that is called by my name. For I have created him for my glory. I have formed him. Yea, I made him. Let's skip to the 15th verse. And I am the Lord, the Holy One, the Creator of Israel, your King. Thus saith the Lord, which maketh a way in the sea, and a path in the mighty waters, which bringeth forth the chariot and the horse and the army and the power. They shall.
Okay, thank you. Now, again, we're going to go into Isaiah, the 35th chapter. It's very important to understand the context. I've heard people say context, but I don't think that they really know what context is. The doctrine our friend has brought to us, I am very familiar with the doctrine, and it's so many holes in the doctrine that we will have, I'm willing to do other sessions to break down the scriptures he brought in one at a time. Now, for example, he mentioned a 3.5-year wilderness set in Matthew 24. Matthew 24 doesn't mention anything about a 3.5-year time period at all. Okay. He also mentioned that Christ has to confirm the last 3.5 years of his covenant. This is strictly Greco-Roman teaching. This teaching comes right out of the Greco-Roman theology because of the misunderstanding of Daniel chapter 9. I just want to clear this up, and we're going to read Isaiah 35 so we can get the context. I just want to bring out a couple of things to show you that our friend is definitely mistaken in his theory that he has presented to us today. Now, first of all, the covenant was confirmed with the house of Israel. This is what he read. He shall confirm a covenant with the children of Israel for 1 week. But in the midst of the week, the Messiah was cut off. He didn't say that the covenant ceased to be confirmed for that prophetical 7-year period, because the apostles continue the work of the Christ. And that's why Paul explained to the people, if you read it very carefully, before he went to the Gentiles, he told the people that it was necessary for us to come to you first. Why was it necessary for them to go to the children of Israel first? Because the covenant had to be confirmed with them first for 1 week. After that was accomplished, Paul said, behold, we now turn to the Gentiles. But you won't see that unless you understand the context of the text being brought. But that's not our subject per se today. Isaiah 35, the wilderness. When you read in wilderness is all over the Bible. And you have to look at the context concerning what wilderness is speaking of in certain passages. Now, our friend told us today in one voice that the wilderness shall be for the redeemed. Let's read this. Isaiah 35:1. The wilderness and the solitary place shall be glad for them, and the desert shall rejoice and blossom as a rose. It shall blossom abundantly and rejoice even with joy and singing. The glory of Lebanon shall be given unto it. The excellency of Carmel and Sharon, they shall see the glory of the Lord and the excellency of our God. Strengthen ye the weak hands and confirm the feeble knees. Why is this? Who was the weak and feeble? These were the people who were in the previous captivity that Isaiah was prophesying about between the chapters of 35 all the way down to chapter 45. Now he says, strengthen them. Then the eyes of the blind shall be opened, and the ears of the deaf shall be unstopped. Then shall the lame man leap as an hart, and the tongue of the dumb sing. For in the wilderness shall waters break out, and streams in the desert. And the parched ground shall become a pool, and the thirsty land springs of water. In the habitation of dragons, where each lay shall be grass with reeds and rushes. So this desolate place is now to be revitalized, is now to have vegetation growing in it, because it was desolate. He still never told us the location yet. Let's continue to read. Verse 6 again. Then the lame man shall leap as an hart, and the tongue of the dumb sing. For in the wilderness shall waters break out, and streams in the desert. And the parched ground shall become a pool, and the thirsty land springs of water. In the habitation of dragons, where each lay shall be grass with reeds and rushes. And an highway shall be there. And a way, and it shall be called the way of holiness. This is used often in the scriptures too, when the Creator is talking about a pathway to take. It isn't specifically every time you read the way, it's talking about what happened with Moses. But nevertheless, it shall be a way of holiness. Notice this though. The unclean shall not pass over it. The unclean shall not take this way to this place that shall be glad for the people. The unclean shall not pass. Pay careful attention. They shall not pass over this highway. What else did he say concerning this? But it shall be for those, the wayfaring men, or the traveling men, the pilgrims in the earth. Though fools shall not err therein. There shall not be any fools who shall take the way unto this place that he's calling the wilderness that shall blossom as a rose. No fool shall be there. No lion shall be there, nor any ravenous beast shall go up thereupon. It shall be not found there, but the redeemed shall walk there. Where are the redeemed going to? Now Isaiah himself is going to explain this way that this redeemed is walking to, and where are they going? Just like our friend told us. Let's see if it read like our friend read it. He said, and the ransom of the Lord shall return and come to Zion with songs and everlasting joy upon their heads. Why is that? Because Zion shall be glad for them. Zion shall blossom as a rose, because she had laid desolate for so many years. Now she shall receive the people, and the people shall travel that way. But he said, no fool shall be there. And the ransom of the Lord shall return and come to Zion with songs and with everlasting joy upon their heads. They shall obtain joy and gladness, and sorrow and sighing shall flee away. Now, our friend told us that, look, after, he said, he added a word there. He said, after the wilderness, they shall go there. After the wilderness. The text didn't say after the wilderness they shall go to Zion, but because of the deceitfulness of this doctrine in which he has been taught, he has to alter the text to fit the way he wanted to fit, so it can complement his other text that he's twisting to his own destruction. It did not say after the wilderness. It let us know that there will be a way for the redeemed to travel. What happened to Zion? Can Zion be rightfully called the wilderness? Let's go to Isaiah, the 64th chapter. And furthermore, if no fool going to be there in this wilderness or following this way, why will Yahweh plead with them there? Yahweh is going to plead with the people in Ezekiel 20 in that wilderness, but he said he's going to weed out the rebels. What we're learning here, there will be no rebels entering into this wilderness that shall blossom like a rose. So he has difficulty and a contradiction in his theory, because either the rebels will be there that's going to be weeded out, or the rebel or the fool will not be there according to Isaiah 35. They will not be there because it is a different wilderness. This wilderness that is blossoming like a rose, according to Isaiah, what had happened to Zion. Isaiah and the prophets talked about what was to happen to Zion if she sinned against the Creator. And here in Isaiah 64. We'll go there first for the length of time. Isaiah 64, and I'll begin reading at verse, let's say Isaiah 64 and 8. Isaiah 64 and 8. But now, O Lord, thou art our Father. We are the clay and thou art the potter. We are the work of thy hands. I'll skip down. Thy holy cities are a wilderness. Zion is a wilderness. Jerusalem, a desolation. Our holy and our beautiful house, where our fathers praise thee, is burned up with fire, and all of our pleasant things are laid waste. But Yahweh promised that he will restore Jerusalem for his redeemed, and his redeemed shall go to a place that has been desolate for many days, and that place shall blossom like a rose, and no fool shall be there. Now, our friend is confusing Matthew 24. Has nothing to do with this in Isaiah 35. And we can have a separate debate on Matthew 24, verse by verse. He confused Matthew 24 and Daniel 12. Let me show you more of his confusion because he's not reading carefully. When he read in Matthew 24, if I could squeeze this in here, Matthew chapter 24, to show you that he has to start to study and not just regurgitate what false prophets have taught him. Matthew chapter 24, it tells us why he had to shorten the days, and he's going to explain this concerning the great tribulation. And it says here that when ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, whoso read, let him understand. So he's bringing the great tribulation. Verse 21, for then shall be great tribulation such as was not sent. Notice this wording. For then shall be great tribulation such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, nor ever shall be. Notice what Daniel 12 said, which was talking about a totally different event, and our friend got that confused. Is it 1,260 days, or is it 1,290 days? What do the 1,290 days represent? I noticed him stumble over that when he read those two time periods because he don't know Daniel 12 context. But we can discuss that as well on another debate. Let's go to Daniel 12 to show you the difference from Matthew 21. Notice the Messiah said, it shall never be like this again. Did Daniel say that? Daniel chapter 12. And we're going to go here to Daniel 12. And let's see. Verse 1. At that time Michael shall stand up, the great prince which standeth for the children of thy people. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation even to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered. You notice something missing? He said, and there shall be a time of trouble such as never was since there was a nation until that same time. He was speaking of the rise of the Greek Empire. Israel has never suffered anything like they suffered under the Greeks until that time. But see, there was something else to take place under Rome. That's why the Messiah used the same language, but he added a little more to it. Daniel did not say, the prophet Daniel didn't say, nor ever shall be. You see, he didn't say that. But the Messiah said it in Matthew 24. He was explaining this time shall trump what the Greeks did. And this time shall be a time that has never been unto this time, which the day in which the Messiah was living, and nor ever shall be like this again, which shall take place upon the children of Israel. So there are two totally different expressions here in these passages. Why did the Messiah say this? because he was talking about great tribulation. And you know what the Messiah didn't say? And you could read all through Matthew 24, frontwards and backwards. He never said it was for 3.5 years. So our friend have many faults in his argument. But today, we will deal with one at a time. So I turn it back over to the host.
Yeah, you got 10 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to address everything that he spoke about in the second rebuttal. I'm going to finish where I had left off in Isaiah 43, because you have to get a full understanding, line upon line, precept on precept. Our friend over here did a whole lot of talking and not very much reading, didn't he? Isaiah 43 and 15 through 21, it says, I am the Lord, your Holy One, the Creator of Israel, your King. Thus saith the Lord, which maketh a way in the sea, and a path in the mighty waters, which bringeth forth the chariot and the horse and the army and the power. They shall lie down together, they shall not rise, they are extinct, they are quenched as tow. Remember ye not the former things, neither consider the things of old. Behold, I will do a new thing. Now it shall spring forth. Shall ye not know it? I will even make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. And our friend over here, Brother Judah, is going to have to deal with that desert. You're going to have to deal with that desert. You're going to have to deal with it. He said also that I didn't tell you where the wilderness was. Read Numbers chapter 33. That's the wilderness. It says, I will make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. The beasts of the field shall honor me. The dragons and the owls chosen. This people have I performed for myself. They shall show forth my praise. Who is this people? That's Israel. Because we just read in Isaiah 43 and 5, it says, Fear not, for I am with thee. I will bring thy seed from the east and gather thee from the west. He's talking about bringing back Israel. But where you go first? In the wilderness. He said, I added after the wilderness. I was getting you to see that in Zion, in Isaiah chapter 35, it starts to talk about Zion after it's talking about the wilderness. Talking about the wilderness, then it leads into talking about Zion. That's what I was talking about. So I wasn't adding nothing to the scriptures, because I know that if you add or take away, the plagues of this book gonna be on you. So I understand that. Let's go over to Let's go over to Ezekiel chapter 20, verse 33 through 38. It says, As I live, saith the Lord, surely with a mighty hand and with a stretched out arm and with fury poured out will I rule over you. What's that? That's that rod of iron. He said, I will bring you out from the people. That's all the nations. And will gather you from out of the countries wherein ye are scattered, with a mighty hand and with a stretched out arm and with fury poured out. And I will bring you into the wilderness of the people. Where is that at? That's in Numbers 33. And there will I plead with you face to face, because the prophet like unto Moses is going to be there, face to face. Like as I pled with your fathers in the wilderness of the land of Egypt. It's the same wilderness, different time period. So will I plead with you, saith the Lord God. He going to have to deal with this Ezekiel 20. And I will cause you to pass under the rod. Then we read that in Revelation chapter 12 about that rod. This the rod, same one. And I will bring you into the bond of the covenant. Well, there goes that 3.5 years, bringing you into the bond of the covenant that he had to fulfill. Remember in Daniel chapter 9, because he tried to say that the covenant wasn't confirmed. It's saying right here, I got to confirm the covenant. I got to bring you into the bond of the covenant. Right here. And then it says, I will purge out ye from among the rebels. Why? Because people is going to believe when they go into the wilderness. It's just what you going to do when you're in the wilderness. Because in the times of old, in Egypt's time, all the people came out believing. But then in the wilderness, who was left? 19 and lower. The kids. And Caleb and Joshua, that was it. So it ain't nothing about you being holy going to the wilderness. It's can you make it out? That's the question. Now, let's go to Revelation chapter 13, verse 1, and it says, and this all ties in with that tribulation in Matthew 24 that he's trying to destroy. Revelation 13 and 1, it says, I stood up I stood upon the sands of the sea and saw the beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon the head names of blasphemy, right? Let's go deal with that. Let's go to Revelation chapter 17, verse 9, and it says, and here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. Let's go to World Book Encyclopedia, volume 10, page 513. Rome, a city which sits on 7 hills. And I'm not going to read no more. That's all we need. Rome, a city which sits on 7 hills. Go to volume 10 of your World Book Encyclopedia. See it for yourself. Now, it says, so we know the 7 horns is the 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. And right here we know it's Rome, right? Now, let's go to Revelation 17 and 12. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings which have received no kingdom as yet, but will receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. Let me show you something. Let's read this. This is from the WEU administrative decision. It says, recall the necessitation of activities of the organization will be effective June 30th, 2011. It says, considering that it is incumbent upon the Permanent Council to ensure the support of these residual administrative obligations by another legal entity, particularly the WEU's residual obligations with respect to its staff, considering Belgium, 1, France, 2, Germany, 3, Greece, 4, Italy, 5, Luxembourg, 6, Netherlands, 7, Portugal, 8, Spain, 9, and the United Kingdom, 10. Agree that they shall be under international law, be jointly liable for fulfilling the residual administrative obligations of the WEU and its European Union satellite states. Supporting for the liquidation of WEU goods and services, June 30th, 2011, the WEU will enter into an administrative agreement or arrangement with the European Union nation satellite centers to ensure the implementation of the European Union Council decision. From this 4th, May 23rd, 2011, Belgium, France, Germany, Greece, Italy, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, Portugal, Spain, and the United Kingdom, hereafter called the 10. So we know that them 10 kings is this revived Roman Empire, which was the 4th beast. So this Greek mumbo-jumbo he talking is false, because we have the 10 kings got their kingdom now. In Revelation, it said they don't have it, but now we see that it's going down. They said they called it 10. It says recognize that they will be jointly responsible, including financially, to the extent of the key governing mandatory contributions to the WEU and the European Union as a whole. The 10 shall each appoint a representative and deputy to the board. This decision shall enter into the force on the date of its adoption, May 23rd, 2011 through 30 June 2011. Right there go to 10. So we got Rome. We got the 7 heads, Rome. Then we got them 10 kings over there. This is the European Union right now, right up under our face. Revelation 13. And the beast who I saw was like unto a leopard. That's the Greek Empire, and his feet was as the feet of a bear. That's the Medo-Persian Empire, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. That's the Babylonian Empire. And the dragon gave him his power, his seat, and his great authority. This is the European Union with a world ruler ruling. Revelation 13 and 2. Now, we can go into Daniel chapter 7. I got 2 minutes. And it says, let's go over to the 3rd verse. We could go show you that what I just said is true through Daniel 7, but we ain't got time. It says Revelation 13 and 3, and I saw one of the heads as it was wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed. Let's go over to World Book Encyclopedia. I'm trying to move fast as I can, y'all. Let's look at this. It says in 476 AD, barbarians forced by Germanic General Odoacer disposed the last emperor of the Western Roman Empire. So Rome supposedly fell, or that last beast supposedly fell in 476, but his deadly wound is being healed right now. And then it says, let's just keep going. Let's deal with the religious ruler now, because I ain't got time to go in it. But if y'all holler at me, I can go into detail. Let's start at Revelation 13. Well, let's go to verse 4. It says, and they worshiped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. This is the secular ruler. And they worshiped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast, who is able to make war with him? And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things, and blasphemy and power was given unto him to continue 42 months, which is 3.5 years. This is this secular ruler. Now, here goes the religious ruler. And it says, let me just skip. He said, and I beheld another beast coming out of the earth, had 2 horns like a lamb, and spake as a dragon. He exercised all the power.
All right, and again, like I said, brothers and sisters, pay careful attention. This doctrine in which our beloved is bringing to the table right now is none other than something coming right out of the Greco-Roman theology. You will find the same teaching of this 3.5-year finishing covenant with Hale Lindsey and Herbert W. Armstrong. All right, Brother House, I'm going way back. I've heard this teaching many years ago. At one time, I learned this teaching, and I taught this teaching. It is false as a $3 bill. For example, let me show you what I'm talking about. This is going to get a lot of people messed up, believing that you got to flee to some wilderness in Sinai somewhere. This is none other than, this is a cousin of that flee Babylon doctrine that's going on today. Now, see, he read that the people shall be brought into the bond of the covenant, and we read in Daniel that the covenant shall be confirmed. My son can understand that there is a difference between bond and confirm. The covenant was confirmed with Israel for 1 week. Then in Ezekiel that he said I had to deal with, and I would love to, in Ezekiel he's talking about bringing them into the bond of this covenant that was confirmed. It's been confirmed. Now Israel is obligated to fall under the bond of it. But you have to take your time and read these things. He also made a statement to us tonight that it don't matter whether you're holy or not entering into the wilderness. It's about how you got to be coming out of it. Again, his own doctrine he's adding to it. We read it in Isaiah 35 very clearly. It says that no food shall be there. Let's see. And that only the redeemed of Yahweh shall walk there. That's what we read in our Bibles. Now, he added the word after. He done added the words, you don't have to be holy, all to put in the people's face and throw dust in the eyes of the people so they can't see the text clearly, so they can believe this false doctrine is false as a $3 bill coming right out of the Greco-Roman sector. In Isaiah 35, it tells you who shall be there. In verse 8, and a highway shall be there, and a way, and it shall be called the way of holiness. This passage of holiness, only the holy could walk this path. The unclean shall not pass over it, but it shall be for those, the wayfaring men, though fools shall not err therein. No lion shall be there. He's explaining this to you, that no fool shall be in this place called the wilderness. But what was a wilderness? Zion became a wilderness, people. Are you going to take Isaiah's word for it, or are you going to take our speaker's word for it? Now, Isaiah had already told you in Isaiah chapter 64 that Zion and her cities has become a wilderness. Now let us tell us this again in Isaiah chapter 51. See, we can stay in the book of Isaiah because this is how you understand line upon line, precept upon precept. Before you can go line upon line, precept upon precept, like many of our brothers like to quote, you have to first go context upon context. Because if you're looking at it out of context, then your precepts will not be in order. Isaiah 51, what did he tell us about Zion? Isaiah, and if you have your Bibles there, check it out yourself or just write the passage down. Isaiah 51, starting at verse 1. It tells us that hearken to me, ye that follow after righteousness, ye that seek the Lord, look unto the rock whence ye are hewn, and to the hole of the pit whence ye are digged. Notice this, down further. Verse 3, the Lord shall comfort Zion. He will comfort her waste places, and will make her wilderness like Eden, Isn't that what Isaiah 35 was explaining? That the wilderness shall be glad for the people because it shall start to blossom. Here Isaiah is saying he shall make Zion's wilderness like Eden. Now let's go to Ezekiel that our friend said I have to deal with, and we will also deal with Isaiah 43 with no sweat. I see first Isaiah 43, what he didn't read to the people was this. See, he started right at verse 15, but because he don't know the context, he is just basically doing like the Jehovah's Witnesses do. They just read in the already set criteria and they already set lessons that they received from their elders. But if you read chapter 43 and verse 14, Isaiah brought something into play. Thus saith the Lord, your Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel, for your sake I have sent to Babylon, and have brought down all their nobles and the Chaldees who cry in the ships. Notice what he's explaining. This is Yahweh's argument that he declares an end from the beginning. This is where you will start to read, start from Isaiah chapter 40. What he's declaring is that I shall bring down the Chaldeans. And just like, and we're not talking about modern Babylon, we're talking literally like Isaiah said, the Chaldees. Why is Yahweh saying this? Because he explained, just like how I delivered Israel from Egypt and dried up the waters, this I will do a new thing in delivering you from the Chaldees, if you start from verse 14. And see, people look right over this. Do you know what the Israelites had to go through when they was freed out of Babylon? Did you know that they had to walk through a desert, 800-mile track across the Arabian Peninsula, all along the track of the Euphrates? People don't understand this because they don't understand the context. Yahweh is showing them that I shall deliver you just like I deliver you out of Egypt. I shall deliver you and bring down the nobles of Babylon, and I shall make a way for you in the desert. He shall make provision for you in the desert. Why? Because they had to pass a tract of desert. And you know, I'm not going to go and read all the encyclopedia books, but all you got to do is carefully look at when Israel left. They left in the springtime and began to take the road of the Arabian Peninsula through the desert, an 800-mile journey through a desert. But they left in the spring. And Yahweh had declared, even if you do research on desert phenomenons, how it is streams. Let me put it this way. Do you know that they say more people die in the desert of drowning than of thirst? Because of these times when Yahweh would send waters gushing in through the deserts. And they would tell you in the New World Encyclopedia that just during the springtime is when the desert began to blossom. This is exactly when Israel left, during the springtime, coming out of the land of the Chaldees by the decree of Cyrus. If our friend was to continue to read Isaiah, he will find in the next chapters that Cyrus will be brought into the picture, because Isaiah began to focus on the children of Israel being delivered out of the Chaldees, traveling through their way through the desert, and going back to the wilderness of Zion, which he shall cause to blossom like a rose. Now, we'll deal with Ezekiel 20 in the rebuttal, but all you have to do is read this here on your own time, and I had to explain it first. Now, let me go ahead and finish and continue to show you in Isaiah 43 and 17. I had to explain it just in case I didn't have enough time to read it to you. When the poor and needy seek water and there is none, and their tongue faileth for thirst, I, the Lord, will hear them. I, the God of Israel, will not forsake them. I will open rivers in high places and fountains in the midst of the valleys. I will make the wilderness a pool of water and the dry land springs of water. You know, he didn't mention here in this wilderness about any trees blossoming, because what he's talking about here is valleys and gullies that is in the deserts that he shall fill with water. And all you have to do is look on a careful research on the desert and find out that Yahweh does this for travelers. In fact, travelers will pass through and migrate through the Arabian desert shortly after the winter rains. But if you're looking at this like hocus pocus, Hale Lindsey and Herbert W. Armstrong, and believing that a city coming out of the sky and believing a statue going to come alive and get you if you got the mark of the beast, This is what the elders teach our friend. A statue going to come alive. They teach you a city coming out of space. We can show you everything that he's bringing to the table, got holes in it, one step at a time. Our focus today is Isaiah 35, and we've shown you that Isaiah 35 is Zion that had become a wilderness. And I turn it over to the host.
So let's get this thing started. We're going to start off with Hezekiah asking questions to Brother Judah. This is going to be 10 minutes each. It's going to be over to both phone lines. Let me set the timer, and you can go ahead, brother.
Okay, we dealt with Isaiah 64, and you said in Isaiah 64 that it says, "Thy holy cities are a wilderness, Zion is a wilderness, Jerusalem is a desolation." My question is, where is Zion and Jerusalem?
Which Zion and Jerusalem are you making reference to, the cities or the people?
The place, the land itself.
Oh, it's in the Mideast.
Where exactly?
What do you mean, where exactly?
Well, in the Middle East is very broad. I mean, there's a bunch of different countries, and the Middle East is actually an oxymoron in itself.
It's what you call Palestine today.
Okay, now, so Zion is Palestine. Is it a wilderness?
Right now, Isaiah says she is desolate as overthrown by strangers.
What Isaiah what?
Isaiah, the first chapter.
What verse?
Here. Isaiah chapter 1. Verse 7. Isaiah here is speaking of the prophetic language of the children of Israel in their captivities. And since they're in captivity now, this is why I'm giving you this answer. Isaiah 1 and 6. Verse 7. Your country is desolate. Your cities are burned with fire. Your land strangers devour it in your presence. And it is desolate as overthrown by strangers. So even though they begin to rebuild the cities, it is still desolate as overthrown by strangers. The Messiah explained it in this way, that it is trodden down of the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled. So if you want to say that it is a wilderness as being desolate as overthrown by strangers, you can. It depends on what language are you talking, if you're talking about today. But I'm making reference in this debate according to Isaiah 35.
All right. Well, the besieged, as a besieged city, the daughter of Zion is left as a cottage in a vineyard, as a lodge in the garden of the cumbers, as a besieged city. Except the Lord of hosts hath left on him a very small remnant. We should have been as Sodom and Gomorrah have been, as should have been like unto Gomorrah. Hear ye the word of the Lord, the rulers of Sodom, give ear to the law of our God, ye people Gomorrah. To what purpose is the multitude of your... Where is this? I don't see how this is talking about now.
Because I'm not talking about now, necessarily. You asked me if Zion is a wilderness. And so I explained to you as far as concerning desolation what it is now. She's desolate. So therefore I'm using this prophetic language to accompany Luke chapter 21 as far as Israel being trodden down in the Gentiles. The Most High also consider when Israel isn't in the land to be overthrown or be desolate as overthrown by strangers. But I'm not necessarily talking about now per se. I'm talking about Isaiah chapter 35. And are you arguing with Isaiah as far as when he said Zion has become a wilderness? Because you don't seem to want to deal with that.
Well, it's my time to ask the questions, but then when you have your time, you can ask the questions. But in Isaiah 35, we could deal with it since that's where you want to be stuck at. It says the wilderness and the solitary place. What does solitary mean?
It means like a desert place.
A desert place.
Desert or desolate.
Okay, so you're saying that Isaiah 35 and that Isaiah 1 talking about the same thing. That's what you're saying?
No, that's not what I'm saying, no.
Okay, I got to keep going because I can't, I only got 10 minutes. So let's deal with Isaiah 35. Let's deal with, it's a desert. The wilderness is a desert, people. Just to let you know, the wilderness is a desert right now, and it has always been a desert. Always. This is what he's talking about. But, okay, it says in 8, and an highway shall be there and a way, and it shall be called the way of holiness, and the unclean shall not pass over it, but it shall be for those, the wayfaring men, though fools shall not err therein. Okay, let's go over to Isaiah 64, since you dealt with Isaiah 64. Let's go over there. It said this. You said, verse 10, the holy cities are a wilderness, Zion is a wilderness, Jerusalem is desolation. Okay. And then when we read in Isaiah 35, it said the wayfaring men, no fools, no unholy, right? Verse 5, thou meetest him that rejoiceth and worketh righteousness, those that remember thee in thy ways. Behold, thou art wroth, for we have sinned, and those is continuance, and we shall be saved. But we are as an unclean thing, and all our righteousness is as filthy rags, and we all do fade as a leaf, and our iniquities like the wind have taken us away. I thought, no wayfaring men, no fool. But right here, we wicked.
You're asking a question?
Yeah, what's that about? Why is it saying Isaiah 35, if this talking about Isaiah 35 and Isaiah 64 talking about the same thing, why does Isaiah 35 say that the wayfaring men and no unholy thing gonna walk in there, but in Isaiah 64 they saying we dirty, we unclean? How they gonna get there?
Oh, that's
and
very.
Then go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not too difficult at all if you take your time and read the text, because one passage is explaining the condition before they entered into the land.
Which passage?
The passage that's saying that we are unclean. That's why they're repenting. So you have to repent first to go back to the land.
Oh, but that's not what you said at first.
What did I say at first?
At first you said no. You basically said, you lied on me really and said that I said it don't matter if you unholy, you can go to the wilderness. That is not what I said. What I said was that it don't matter if you is holy and you go to the wilderness. Can you make it out? Can you stay holy? Yeah, you have to be holy. Keep the commandments of God and the testimony of Jesus. That's how you're going to be able to understand to go to the wilderness. And then once you get there, you got to still keep them things. The people of old, they didn't believe God, and they killed them. Same thing in this wilderness that's coming. So you said that the wayfaring men and holiness,
yes,
they going.
Yeah, that's what Isaiah said. Isaiah said, no fool shall err therein. No fool or the unclean shall not be there.
Well, Isaiah 64 is saying something different. He's saying we dirty.
Well, of course he's saying we're dirty and entering into the land. You have to have a certain level of comprehension.
That's not what you said at first, see. That ain't what you said earlier. The people, this is an archive show, so y'all can go back and listen to it and show how this dude is double talking and making basic classic game-saying moves, very classic, throwing out names of Protestants and trying to throw you off from reading the scripts. I clearly have proven everything that I had, but you got him with a lot of talking. At any rate, Isaiah 64 and Isaiah 35 is not lining up based on your thought process. I yield.
All right. Once again, you're now listening to Debate Talk for You. The title of this debate, The Wilderness. My special guest is Hezekiah Ben Israel. and Brother Judah. The number is 877-280-9681. That's 877-280-9681. Once again, for those of you that just joined in to Debate Talk for You, we're getting closer and closer to the public Q&A where you're the listening audience. We're calling with your questions, your comments by pressing the number 1. And, of course, I'm going to go in order and take your questions. I already see a lot of people already press the number 1. Once you press it once, do not press it again. Press it one time, and I'm going to go down the line. Because if you press it again, then it's going to bring you further down the line as far as the lineup process. All right, so we're still in the cross-examination part of this debate. It's 10 minutes each. Now it's time for Brother Judah to ask questions to Hezekiah. Let me open up the phone lines. Let me set up the timer, and go ahead.
All right. Now, tell me, like our friend said, and he said I was misquoting him, he said it doesn't matter. This is how he corrected me. Quote, it doesn't matter whether you're holy or not entering into the wilderness. All right. Is that what you said, Speaker?
No.
What did you say clearly?
I clearly said that it don't matter how holy you are.
Oh,
you
okay.
have to go into the wilderness holy. You have to go into the wilderness holy. You got to keep the commandments and have the testimony of Jesus. You got to have that going for you going into the wilderness. I'm saying you have to maintain it.
Yeah,
that's
right,
what I said.
I'm just going off, like you said, it doesn't matter how holy. Okay, you said it doesn't matter how holy you are. Well, that's a contradiction. Because what is the barometer of holiness?
What does it matter about me, what I said?
Just a minute.
Yeah, hold on, Hezekiah. Hold on.
It either you got to be holy or you don't. Now, you said it doesn't matter how holy you are. Well, Isaiah got a conflict with you because Isaiah said that there shall be no unclean person or one who isn't holy walking this way, because he declared that this is a way of holiness. So it do matter how holy you are. So I have to beg to differ with you there.
Man, how about here? Let me say it real quick. Let me say it over real quick in proper English. Let me throw the Ebonics out.
All right.
You can go into the wilderness only if you keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ.
So
if you don't have those things, you cannot go to the wilderness.
So
it's not going to
matter
be
how holy you are.
For you.
So it does matter how holy you are. We don't have to make
this. If you're not keeping the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus, you ain't holy.
Okay, so you got to be holy then to enter.
I've been saying that.
Well, first you said it don't matter how holy you are, but we're going.
No, see, now you're playing word games. We're dealing on words.
Oh, well,
hold on, Hezekiah. Hold on, Hezekiah. One at a time, brothers. One at a time.
Yeah, we're not playing word games, but you have to deal real intricately and analytically when we're dealing with the text. Let me show you why I say that. Let's go to Matthew chapter 24, because you lied on Matthew a few times. And so let's go to Matthew chapter 24, and I have a question for you as well. Here in Matthew chapter 24, the beloved disciple says something to the Messiah. In Matthew 24:1, it says, and Jesus went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him for to show him the buildings of the temple. And Jesus said unto them, see ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. And as he sat upon a Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? Now let's go to Mark chapter 13 and follow the same conversation. And then I'll ask my question to the caller here, because I'm sure he at least knows this is the same conversation. Mark chapter 13, and it says in verse 1, and as he went out of the temple, one of his disciples saith unto him, Master, see what manner of stones and what buildings there are here? And Jesus answered and said unto them, seest thou these great buildings? There shall not be left one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. And as he sat upon a Mount of Olives over against the temple, Peter and James and John and Andrew asked him privately, tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign when all these things shall be fulfilled? So my question to you, caller, what verse does the Messiah begin to address their first question about the temple being destroyed in Matthew chapter 24?
All right, Matthew 24 and He says, and Jesus answered, and I'll start at verse 4, take heed that no man deceive you, for I say, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. And ye shall hear of wars, rumor of wars, nation, many false prophets. But he that endureth, ain't none of it.
You see what I mean, audience? The doctrine is so polluted and tainted with
the first part, verse 2 is the only part he talk about.
You see that?
He tell them the end of the world in the whole chapter.
You see that? We ain't talking about in the world. We asking you, when did he show this verse? Because you brought Matthew 24 talking about the wilderness. So let's see if you know what,
for the end time.
Hold on now. Let's see if you know what the text is talking about. Now, in Matthew 24, the disciples asked two questions. In Mark chapter 13, Mark focused on one question, and that question is, when shall these things be, that there shall not be left here one stone standing upon another? Now, if they went to the Messiah privately, you mean to tell me he's not going to answer their question? Because I know where he answered their question. But I'm trying to find out, how far are you going to stick with this false doctrine and not be honest to the Scriptures? Where did he answer their first question? You're going to sit up here and tell us none of them. You done gave me that answer. I ain't got nothing else to say to you. I'm turning right back over to the host.
All right. Once again, you're now tuned in to Debate Talk for You. The number is 877-280-9681. That's 877-280-9681. So far, it's a classic debate. Hopefully, you guys are writing down your information and taking down your notes. Right about now, we're going to take a 6-minute intermission break, just for the brothers to probably gather some more notes and, just take a little break right now. So stand by, everybody that's asking questions. We'll be right back. So, tune in, stand by, and, we're going to be right back after these messages. All right, so right now we're going to the second rebuttal of this debate. The second rebuttal, that's going to be 7 minutes each. And, of course, we're going to start off with Brother Hezekiah in Israel. Let me just set the timer. Let me open up the phone line. And Hezekiah, go ahead, brother.
Okay. Well, basically, as you can see, that he moved doing classic game-saying moves. Forgive my daughters up here. But it's a classic game-saying move that he pulled. He playing with on my words. Stop. He playing on words. And we didn't even deal with the scriptures, and then he wanted to stick to Matthew 24, and Matthew 24 is a part of this precept, but the way he trying to take it, saying about Matthew, Mark, and Luke, that's a whole nother precept, because we going to have to deal with that another time. That particular topic is a whole nother precept. We're dealing with the wilderness. Yes, Matthew 24 has something to do with the wilderness because of what's written in it, but it is not talking entirely about the wilderness. It said the end of the world. That's what they talking about in Matthew 24. So, this is just a bunch of game saying. He ain't dealt with nothing. And then Isaiah 64 and 6, he clearly said Isaiah 35. He didn't deal with that. Isaiah 35 clearly said the wayfaring men gonna go there. The ones who keep the commandments and the testimony of Jesus, them the ones that's going. They ain't going to try to play on how I said it. That's retarded. Deal with the text. The text is Isaiah 64 and 6, that it said we was unclean. So it's two totally different situations what's going on, and he's mingling precepts. That's the classic problem with gainsayers, is that they mingle precepts, and they cause you to become confused because they confused. So don't listen to this dude come here and feed you a bunch of malarkey. I proved everything. He said, make full proof of thy ministry. I did it. I proved through these encyclopedias. He said, I'm not going to go to no encyclopedia. Why? You a teacher. You better go to them encyclopedias, and you better read them. That's what you're supposed to be doing. Now let's go, and I'm finna show y'all we already dealt with the 7 heads and the 10 horns. We know that the 10 horns is the revived Roman Empire under them 10 nations, and we read that in history and we read it in the Bible. So now let's deal with the secular ruler to show that it's the Pope. So when you see that it's the Pope and the European Union there, it'll bring the wilderness alive and let you know that, yes, that wilderness is there. If I go look over there, I can see exactly where we're going to have to go. But if you want to deal with the wilderness being Zion, you're going to get caught up in the tribulation. And we know it's going to be one. For 3.5 years, the scriptures say it. Now, let's deal with this ruler. It says, Revelation 13:12, it says, he exercised all the power of the first beast before him and caused the earth and them that dwell thereon to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. That was that secular rulership, Rome. 476, it was supposedly killed, but it's healed now. It's healing. And he doeth great wonders, and so much he make fire come down from heaven in the sight of men. He gonna do this. This ain't symbolism. This is what's gonna happen. It says, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by means of those miracles, which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, or the world ruler. And saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, and which had the wound by the sword and did live, the world ruler, because it's to Caesar. The Pope and the Caesar has always been fighting. Look up Innocent III. He the first one to declare himself the vicar of Christ. We're going to deal with that here in a second. It says it had power to give unto the image of the beast. The beast should both speak and cause as many that would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And he caused all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive the mark in their right hand and in their foreheads. Now, this is me speaking as a man. I believe it's the RFID chip. I speak as a man, not according to the scriptures. Now, it says, now let's go back to the scriptures. It says, and that no man might buy or sell, save he had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. This the wisdom. If you got wisdom, you know this. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. Now, Innocent III, I didn't bring it out right now because this just came up in my mind as I was doing this rebuttal, or I would have had this information available. But Innocent III, and you can go to the last 2 million years to get that information, by the way, on page 58. At any rate, let's look at vicarious Philadelphia. It says V equals 5, I equals 1, C equals 100, A equals nothing, R equals nothing, I equals 1, U equals 5, S is nothing. That's 112. Philly. F is 0, I is 1, L is 50, I is 1, I is 1, and then that's 53. Then you got day. D equals 500, E equals 0, I is 1. That's 501. 501 plus 112 plus 53 equals 666. That's the number of the name, Vicarious Philadelphia, the Pope. And then it says Vicarious Philadelphia means vicar of the Son of God. That's what Vicarious Philadelphia means, vicar of the Son of God. You know what vicar means? Vicar means replacement. So he is the replacement of the Son of God. Now, that's history. You understand? I didn't bring that up out my head. Let's look at this other history real quick. It says, this is from a news report in Israel. A seat for the Pope in King David's tomb. An historical agreement has been drafted between Israel and the Vatican. The Israeli authorities have granted the Pope an official seat in the room where the Last Supper is believed to have taken place on Mount Zion in Jerusalem, and where David and Solomon, Jewish kings of Judea, are considered by some researchers to also have been buried. So it says, in the culmination of a long campaign by the Catholic Church to regain religious stewardship over the place where Jesus is supposed to have broken bread and drunk wine with his disciples on the eve of his crucifixion, this is an enormous issue pushed through without any public debate. According to our sources, the agreement, which is expected to be ratified next June, gives the Pope a special authority over the second floor of the building so that Christian pilgrims will be able to celebrate religious functions like Pope John Paul did in 2000. This agreement constitutes Israel's cultivation to the Vatican's efforts to Christianize the Holy.
All right, once again, you're now listening to Debate Talk for You. The title of this debate, The Wilderness. My special guest is Brother Judah, and Hezekiah been Israel. The number is 877-280-9681. That's 877-280-9681. If you're having difficulty chiming in by dialing the 877 number, the alternative number is 646-716-7320. That's 646-716-7320. We have a high volume of callers tonight. A lot of people are listening via phone. I really appreciate you guys for tuning in. And after this second rebuttal, we're going to go to the public Q&A, my favorite part of the show, where you, the listening audience, will call in with your questions, your comments by pressing number 1. And, of course, I'm going to add you into the conversation. But right now we're still going into the second rebuttal of this debate. So let me open up Brother Judah's phone line. Let me set the timer up, and go ahead, brother.
Oh, thank you. As you can see, that our friend here is really confused, and he definitely, from what it appears to be, a legend in his own mind, because he told us today that he have proved everything that he brought to the table today. He done confused Matthew 24 with Daniel chapter 12. He done added after the wilderness in Isaiah 35. I'm going to see if we can help him out again with Isaiah 64. You have to have a certain level of comprehension when you're reading the Bible. That is very important. But he seems to be very confused. And, let's go into Isaiah 64 again, because after he couldn't answer Matthew chapter 24, he got his own doctrine in there, but he said nowhere did the Messiah answer their first question. This is another monstrosity here that he have brought to us today. And he reading all of these news articles and encyclopedias. No, I don't have time to read that today. It's not necessary to read that today. He wanted to chase me around the dog track and tell me that we dealing with the wilderness when I went to Isaiah 35. But then he reading some news article about the 10 nations and every other thing else. So I think that our speaker is very confused. Let's look here in Isaiah 64 and 6, the one that he can't get over. It says, but we are all as an unclean thing, and our righteousness are as filthy rags. So yes, at this time Israel was unclean. And verse 10, while they were unclean, they said this, thy holy cities are a wilderness. So you have to comprehend what's being said here. They were unclean. As a result of them being unclean, the holy city had become a wilderness, because this is what was prophesied upon Jerusalem if they forsook the wrong way. So yes, the time of them being unclean and the holy city being a wilderness is the time preceding or before the wilderness began to blossom and they start to inherit that wilderness again. Let's go to Ezekiel 20, because he lied on Ezekiel too. In Ezekiel chapter 20, he added again, just like he did earlier today. He want to tell me that I'm bringing some type of malarkey. All righty, a legend in his own mind. Here in Ezekiel chapter 20, our friend who said he have proved everything, he also told us here in Ezekiel 20 that the wilderness that Yahweh shall bring the people from is, starting at verse 38 in Ezekiel 20. He said, I will purge out from among you the rebels and them that transgress against me. Okay? I will bring them forth of the country where they sojourn, and they shall not enter the land of Israel. But notice this. Let's read this very carefully. Let's start a little higher so we can find out where these rebels are, where they're being purged, because there's no food in the wilderness. If there's no food in the wilderness in Isaiah 35, then Yahweh cannot be pleading there against the rebels, because there won't be any rebels there in that wilderness, because it is only a way of holiness. And I don't know if I got to read that backwards for him to comprehend that. But there is no rebel there. But in this wilderness, there is rebels. Let's go see what wilderness it is. He read it and just read right past it. Notice in verse 34, I will bring you out from the people. He himself admitted that the people are the countries where they were gathered. So subject matter, the people who they are scattered among. I will gather you out of the countries wherein you were scattered with a mighty hand and with a stretched out arm and with fury poured out. And I will bring you into the wilderness of who? not Moses and the children of Israel, but I shall bring you into the wilderness of the people. Ezekiel explained in verse 34 who, quote, the people are. They are the people who dwell in the countries where Israel is scattered. This is the people. This is the wilderness in the latter days where Israel will find themselves, in the wilderness of the people where they are scattered. And there he will plead with them. There he will plead. Now, our friend tells me, because I didn't go to 50 texts and references like he did, that I didn't read any scriptures. But I declare, I beg a little different. I have read scriptures today, but it's not how many scriptures you read. It's about these scriptures you read and context of the scriptures you read. So we see here the wilderness of the people is the wilderness of the people where Israel is scattered. This is a total different wilderness than Isaiah 35, because in Isaiah 35, no fool will be in that wilderness. In Isaiah 64, they were unclean, and while they were unclean, Zion was a wilderness. Isaiah 35 talks about the rejuvenation of Zion and the people entering in the way of holiness. And Ezekiel 21 is talking about a total different wilderness, and this is the wilderness of the people or the nations where they are scattered. It is right here in our face, the wilderness of the people. And who are the people? Verse 34, and I will bring you out from the people and will gather you out of the countries where you are scattered. And I will bring you into the wilderness of the people where they are scattered, people. This is the wilderness in which he's talking in Ezekiel 20. Context. But my friend, I think you should go back to Matthew 24 and find out when Messiah answered their first question. Because then you can dismantle all of your fallacies and all this stuff that you done brought to the table today. I tell you, as false as a $3 bill. I turn it over to the host.
All right, once again, the number is 877-280-9681. That's 877-280-9681. You're now locked into Debate Talk for You. The title of this debate, The Wilderness. All right, now we're in the moment of truth, guys. This is my favorite part of the show, the public Q&A, where you, the listening audience, will call in with your questions, your comments. I'm just going to notify you guys. We have a lot of people that want to ask questions, so please keep your comments as brief as possible. Of course, I ask you guys to show respect to my special guests, as well as special guests show respect to the listening audience. It's going to be a 35-minute segment for this particular segment of the debate. So let's go to the people. Let's see what the people got to say. Let's go to the phone lines. All right, 678-544. You're live on Debate Talk for You. You have any questions or comments?
Yes, I got a comment and a question. I'm with Brother Judah on this one, where he mentioned about breaking it down and using the word wilderness in its context. Because when you read Isaiah 14, verse 17, it says, that made the world as a wilderness. So in this context, it said the world was made a wilderness. So I want to know what Brother Hezekiah can do with that. Y'all both made some great points, and a lot of you are right. Like the Brother Judah said, it has to be structured in its right context to get the perfect answer. And that's all I want to say on that.
All right, let's go to Brother Judah first.
Oh, I don't have any rebuttal, but I agree with the brother. You have to look at the context, and I think that is a great text, one of many that shows the word wilderness is used quite often in the prophet. And you have to look at the context to understand what it's making reference to. And everywhere you read wilderness, it isn't necessarily the same. So I have to agree with the caller who just called in.
All right, Hezekiah.
What's the scripture again? Give me the scripture again.
That was Isaiah. I think it was Isaiah 14, verse 16 to 17.
Isaiah 14, 16 to 17. Okay, let's read it. Okay, it says, They that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee, and consider thee, saying, Is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that made the world as a wilderness? We forget as a wilderness. What is as? It ain't saying it's the wilderness. It's saying as a wilderness. Now let's go see how he made the world a wilderness. Let's go over to Revelations, and let's go to Revelation 18 and verse 3. Let's see how it made the world a wilderness. Verse 3. For all the nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her. That's the woman, or that Catholic Church, that doctrine. Let's go to Revelation 17 real quick to deal with her over there. It says, with whom the kings of the earth, verse 2, have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. The inhabitants of the earth, it looks like the world is a wilderness. I yield.
All right, Carla, you want to share some last comments before we move on?
Yeah, I want to say, you had read a scripture in Revelation where it talked about this man that's going to bring fire out to heaven. I think you broke that down wrong, because the technology that can do that, we all know that's the atomic weapon, because you got to read Isaiah 9, verse 5 to tell you that there's going to be weapons that you fuel with fire. Then you read Isaiah, I think it's Isaiah, what is it, where it tell you about the smith that created the waster. So I think that breakdown you said, it has to be, the wilderness got to be from the destructions of the different wars, where everything is demolished. It has to be that. That don't make sense what you said. It can't be a doctrine that made the earth a wilderness. That don't make sense.
Thanks for your call, my brother. Brother Judy, you want to reply now, or you want to move on to the next question?
Oh, no, we can move on. I have no reply.
All right, let's go to the next person here. 870-755. You're live on Debate Talk View. You have any questions or comments?
Peace. What's up? What's up, everybody? This is Carl Albert, Israel Doctrine CEO. Y'all know how I do it. Now,
hey, brother Carl.
The Matthew 24 thing that Judah asked him about, I just want to say something about that. Jesus told them before time, when they left the temple, that it was going to be destroyed. And 3, they asked, when shall these things be? And then that's when they asked the specific questions. What shall be the sign of our coming and the end of the world? Nothing about the temple, because he already told them it was going to be destroyed. So it said, when should these things be? They didn't add the temple in there. They added 2 more things in there, right? So just to address that. Then in Matthew 24, to tie into this whole desert conversation that's going on, and even Judah saying Jerusalem is the wilderness and this and that, that ties into as Hezekiah trying to deal with the Pope, and even 2 Thessalonians sitting in the temple of God claiming that he is God, and people going to him and ending up falling in trouble, messing with the beast and the false prophet. But it's 24. Matthew 24 and 24. For there shall arise false Christs and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, and so much that if it was possible, they shall deceive the very elect, right? So, right here in 26, wherefore, if they shall say unto you, behold, he is in the desert. What desert is this? Is this the wilderness that Hezekiah talking about? Or is this the desert being Jerusalem, this desolate place now, that, we're not there, so, it's keeping its Sabbaths and stuff. But this desolate place, if you go over there to that desolate place of Jerusalem during the time of great tribulations, or during the time that the Pope is over there, or Jerusalem being trodden under the foot of the Gentiles, then you're going to have to flee that place, or you're going to have to go through them tribulations as it's talking about. It say, go not forth, behold, he is in the secret place, chamber. Believe it not. So, just to touch on that, and if Judah could touch on that, I appreciate it. But just to touch on that, and I got one more thing to say. Y'all are not defining, as you said, and as Walt said, and everybody know, y'all not defining what your debate is about the wilderness. Are you arguing that people are not going to the wilderness, or going to the wilderness, and if the wilderness is the desert place, which they came out of Egypt in, or is the wilderness is Jerusalem? I'm not catching y'all argument. So if Judah can speak on that, and if y'all can possibly narrow y'all conversation to exactly what y'all arguing, I might be able to follow, and others may be able to follow too.
Thanks for your call. Brother Judah, go ahead.
Okay. Again, for everyone who listening, again, the caller just called in and say that Jesus already told the disciples when Jerusalem and the temple was going to be destroyed. Yes, but where did he answer? They asked, when shall this be? So we know it's going to be destroyed. Now tell us when. And this is the question that Carl Albert and the rest of the people who believe that doctrine cannot answer. So that's what I would say in reply to that. Now, it's very interesting in Matthew 24 where it says, when some shall say he's in the desert, the text said, believe it not. So I will even go along to say with those who say he's coming to a desert and he will be there to retrieve his saints. I'm telling you, if you're going to get somewhere and go to Mount Sinai, just as Jesus said, you better take the warning. If they telling you he's in the desert somewhere, believe it not. So that's the question. That's answering the question that he just gave.
All right, Hezekiah.
Well, I'm just dealing with the wilderness according to the scriptures. There was a wilderness when they came out of Egypt, and then when we got scattered throughout all the nations, there is a wilderness that you're going to have to go to, the same one that the children of Israel in old times was in before they went into the land, is the same one that, if we be so blessed, are going to be able to deal with if we believe it. That's why it's saying no wayfaring men or only wayfaring men, and it's going to be a way of holiness. Because if you gainsaying what the scriptures say, you ain't going to believe that you need to go to the wilderness. And I read all that stuff about the Pope so that we could get some concrete prophecy here. You could see it. I see them 10 nations over there. I see it. I see Jerusalem over there. I see it. I see that wilderness over there in Sinai, in Zen, and all that area. I see it. So when I see it, I know that I can run. I know how to run because the scriptures tell me. So I'm dealing with the scriptures dealing with the wilderness according to the scriptures. That's what I'm dealing with. He trying to say Isaiah 35 ain't got nothing to do with that time. And I'm saying, yes, it does. So I brought all that information out because I'm dealing with the wilderness in general. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a small topic, but it become broad. The wilderness is simply the desert that we have to go through. Jesus finished his ministry for 3.5 years in that desert. And then we're going to have to practice faith. I'm hungry, but I can't get nothing on my own. I'm hungry. I'm going to have to wait on the Lord. That's the same thing that the children of Israel had to do. But what they do, we loathe this light bread. We want flesh. All this stuff. You got to get rid of all your cosmetics, all this, the nice clothes, your nice shoes. You got to have faith while you out there. And that's where the rebels is going to be purged out, because they ain't going to fear God, and they ain't going to keep his commandments no more, and they going to murmur. God hates a murmurer. He tell you to do all things without despising the murmurings. So I'm just...
let me let Brother Judah reply. And after that, we're going to move on to the next question. Go ahead, Brother Judah.
Yeah, again, he's finding himself in a contradiction, because in one sense he's saying that the wicked shall be in this wilderness, that Yahweh shall weed out, and then he turned around and told us earlier today that you ain't going to make it to the wilderness unless you keep the commandments. So either you holy or you not. You can't have both of them. But this is the contradiction he's running into because of his confusion. And he said that the same wilderness that Israel went into coming out of Egypt is the same wilderness that we shall go to. What text and verse tells us that like he said it? What text and verse says that Jesus would finish his last 3.5 years ministry in the wilderness of Petra? Because that's what you're talking, because I heard this doctrine ever since I was a youth from the Protestant ministers. So what scripture actually says it? I heard John Hagin and the rest of them say what you just said. What scripture says it? And that's my reply.
All right, Carl Albert, you want to reply again? Keep it brief because you got a whole lot of questions, brother.
Yeah, I want to keep it brief. Judah, could you please answer the question for me? That are you saying that Israel, as Jesus called the end from the beginning, or God called the end from the beginning, he's not finna take them from all across the world into the desert or into the wilderness and purge out the rebels in the wilderness? Or are you saying that wilderness is Zion, and when you come into Zion, he going to purge you out? So is it a wilderness that they got to go to make it to the land? Like every time that even you have stated tonight, they go through this thing and then go into Jerusalem or Zion? I'm not understanding what you're saying. If you could clear that up for me, I appreciate it. I'm gone.
Well, okay, real quick, one more time for the time for other questions. I'm saying that the wilderness in Ezekiel 20 is separate and different from the wilderness in Isaiah 35. The context shows this clearly. The wilderness in Ezekiel 20 isn't a desert wilderness in Sinai. He never says anything like that. In fact, he said the wilderness is the wilderness of the people. And he defined who the people were. They were the people who Israel was scattered among. This is the wilderness in which Yahweh will plead with us, among the heathen where we have been scattered. And this is what Ezekiel said in his chapter 20. So that was a briefing on that. Turn it over to the host.
All right, let's go to the next caller here. Let's see. 612-246. You're live on Debate Talk to you. You have any questions or comments?
Shalom. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, brother.
All right, shalom. This is K. How y'all brothers doing? Peace to both brothers that's debating, and peace to the host as well. I have a question for Hezekiah here. It seems as though that you went to Isaiah chapter 64 to make it seem as though this is after we are. This is like, you made it seem like that. This is the purging process. Like when you said that it don't matter if you holy or not. It's about how you get out of there. And you were saying that it's going to be some wicked people there. And it seems as though you went to Isaiah chapter 64 to prove that theory. Now, Brother Judah specifically said that you was taking that way out of context. And when you read it, you see that it's totally out of context of what you were saying. Now, if Isaiah 64 is talking about the purging of the rebels or you know, the people sinning after, you know, they became holy or whatever and they start to rebel, then you have to look at Isaiah 64, chapter 6. And it says that we all are unclean things, and all our right ruling is filthy menstrual rags. So if that's the case, that means everybody's rebels. You see what I'm saying? And then if you go down to 7, it said, and there is none that calls upon your name that stirs up himself to take hold of you. That means everybody is rebels. That means he has to purge out everybody. Then it said, for you have hid your face from us. How will he hide his face from us if he's pleading with us face to face? That means nobody's going to make it to the land. So I was peeping that, and I was like, you know, Isaiah 64 is you taking that totally out of context, and you put it, you know, in the wrong way. That's all I'm going to have to say about that.
All right, Hezekiah.
Y'all taking my words out of context. I never said that you don't have to be holy to go to be able to run to the wilderness. I never said that. Y'all think I said it because I said it don't matter how holy you are. You have to keep the commandments of God. I tell you this, a Sunday Protestant Catholic, they ain't going to the wilderness. They not. Catholics not going. Islamists not going. Only the people who keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus is going to be able to be there. Now, you go to the wilderness, keeping the commandments. Oh, praise the Lord, I keep the commandments. In the wilderness, you get tried, you get hungry, you start murmuring. The Lord will destroy you in there for murmuring. What Moses do? Moses smoked the rock when he was supposed to speak to it. Did he make it in the land? No. So, y'all took my words out of context. Now, in the Isaiah 64, he said in Isaiah 35 that Isaiah 35, and I'm going to it right now. Isaiah 35 and where we at? Okay, right here. And a highway shall be there, and a way, and it shall be called the way of holiness. The unclean shall not pass over it, but it shall be for those, the wayfarer men, though food shall not err therein. Now Isaiah 64. All right, Isaiah 64. But we are all as an unclean thing, and all our righteousness are as filthy rags, and we all do fade as a leaf, and our iniquities like the wind have taken us away. And there is none that call upon thy name, that stirreth up himself to take hold of thee, for thou hast hid thy face from us. I'm trying to tell y'all, this ain't even talking about what Isaiah 35 is talking about. That's my whole point, because the wayfaring men in Isaiah is going into a wilderness. Then you got these filthy rags that don't even call on the name, and then you go down to 10 talking about Zion is the wilderness. That's what I'm saying. But you're taking my words out of context because of how I said it. And that's what I'm saying. You talking about my words. Let's deal with this book. I yield.
All right, Brother Judah?
Yeah. See, again, it's very difficult to have a discussion with a person. I mean, you have to have a certain level of comprehension. I mean, if you're going to debate, if you're going to have a discussion. That's number one. I'm not saying that to be funny. Now, again, in Isaiah, that he's confusing that, look, in Isaiah, when they was making that claim, Isaiah was prophesying about the children of Israel, or more specifically the house of Judah being brought into captivity, all right, by the Babylonians. That's why he didn't read in Isaiah 43:15. Isaiah began to talk about the Babylonian captivity. At that time, Israel was unclean. That's why they went into the captivity. And while they was in captivity, confessing their sins as being unclean, Zion was destroyed like a wilderness. She had become a wilderness. So you got to sort of have a level of comprehension. And two is, there is nowhere in Isaiah that says that righteous holy man will be purged out. See, he's adding that as well. Isaiah never said they're going to come in a wilderness righteous, and it actually will no longer be a wilderness because it's going to start to blossom, as a matter of fact. But he said, no one shall be in there as a holy man. And then Isaiah said, he doesn't say that all of a sudden now Yahweh going to start to weed them out. This is our speakers. Our speaker concocted false doctrine. I'm praying, brother, that you go back and do some research, man, and some sincerity and truth, because what you have been taught is false as a $3 bill. I know the doctrine you teach. I remember it. Over 10 years ago, me and my brothers were sitting in the school with that doctrine, and it is false. And, proof is in the pudding. You don't even know the context of Matthew 24. You got to learn these things in order to put other contexts into place, brother. So I turn it over to the host.
All right, Hezekiah, we'll let you reply, then we're going to move on. Go ahead, Hezekiah.
Oh, I ain't going to reply to that. That's gainsaying. I'm good.
All right, once again, the number is 877-280-9681. That's 877-280-9681. So far, we are 19 minutes into this debate, and this is a 35-minute segment. So I don't see any more questions on the queue. I see a lot of people listening, though, and I really appreciate you guys for tuning in. But if you have any questions, all you got to do is press the number 1. If not, we can move on to the final statements. Once again, the number is 877-280-9681. If you have any questions, feel free to press the number 1, and, of course, I'll add you into the conversation. All right, let's go to the phone lines. 716-563. You're live on Debate Talk for you. You have any questions or comments?
Yeah, peace. This is Brother Zadok Ben Israel of the COIKOJ, assistant teacher with Brother Judah. How you doing, Sal?
Hey, Zadok. How you doing, my brother?
I'm doing pretty good, man. It's another good one. The Lord gave you this form, and it's a blessing. I hope everyone is edified. Peace to my brother Judah, and peace to the brother Hezekiah. One thing I want to say is that I just wanted to ask Hezekiah. I wanted to ask him one question in general, and then I wanted to ask him a scriptural question, so I'll get right to it. Brother Hezekiah, as far as people, the Lord gathering people from around the world and bringing them to the wilderness, is there anywhere in the scripture that talks about how it goes, or is there anything, any understanding, any kind of revelation you may have had on how that is to go down? Because, and the only reason why I ask is because the people were all in one place in Egypt, and they left out in one great wave under very miraculous circumstances as Egypt was destroyed and went into the wilderness where there were no other nations. So are you under the impression it will be similar, even though it's going to be a worldwide event, as you teach?
Yeah, at the first, when they brought the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt, they came out of one nation. Obviously, they in all nations, so obviously it's going to be a worldwide event. Jesus is coming to rule the world, not rule Israel. David going to rule Israel. Of course, Jesus is going to rule Israel because he's going to be the King of Kings, but this is a world thing now. The first time coming out of Egypt, that was just a prelim of the greatness that he's going to do. Why I say that? Jeremiah chapter 23. And it says, hold on, here we go. Jeremiah 23 and 5 says, Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will raise unto David a righteous branch, and the king shall reign and prosper, and shall execute judgment and justice in the earth. And in his days Judah shall be saved, and Israel shall dwell safely. And this is his name whereby he shall be called the Lord our righteousness. Therefore, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that they shall no more say, The Lord liveth, which brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. But the Lord liveth, which brought up and which led the seed of the house of Israel out of the north country, and from all countries whither I have driven them, and they shall dwell in their own land. So if he came out of Egypt, and he's saying, you ain't going to say coming out of Egypt no more. You're going to say coming out of all countries. Where did he come out? In old time, into the wilderness, then into the land. What are you going to do? Into the wilderness, then into the land. Same thing.
Okay. Now, thanks for that explanation, and I understand that because just like Judah, I sat under a doctrine that was basically that. Basically, it's Martin Luther's doctrine. Martin Luther is the first one to bring that doctrine out there. So at least the next time any of you brothers who believe that.
Well, that's a rapture. That's the rapture to heaven. That ain't got nothing to do with the wilderness or the children of Israel.
No. What I'm saying is that the whole doctrine, the only difference in your doctrine is 7 years versus 3.5. That's the only difference.
No, they say go to heaven. They say you're going to be raptured. Let's deal with it. Let's go to Matthew 24.
Wait. Hey, brother. No. I was just making a statement that that's the only difference between the two doctrines.
It's many differences. They say 7-year tribulation. It's a 3.5-year tribulation. They say you're going to get raptured off before the tribulation.
Okay.
The wilderness going on during the tribulation.
Hold on, Hezekiah. Let us that.
So, I just wanted you to answer this question. I wanted to bring up a scripture, and maybe you could tell me what you think of it. But as far as Jesus ruling the earth and this, that, and the third, I understand that according to what y'all believe, to happen after the 3.5 years is over. When you see the so-called Pope of Rome, as Kyle Albert says, stand in the holy place, that's when you're supposed to flee to the wilderness. So that's not the second coming of Jesus. So this big gathering and this going to the wilderness, this is not happening when the sign of the Son of Man appear in the clouds, according to your doctrine. This happened 3.5 years before that. So that means that while man is on the earth ruling and everything else that's a part of that teaching, you have to make your way to the wilderness from everywhere. So you got to have passports. You got to leave countries and everything, land in another country, and I guess y'all going to lie to them. And when they say, where are you going here, it's Palestinians who live over there that can't even get to the wilderness without getting past guards. But you telling me we're going to come from the four corners of the earth and we're going to land on planes. It ain't like planes going to let you parachute into the wilderness. You got to get off at major airports, and you got to make it through their land, through checkpoints and everything, everybody. And you believe that?
All right, go ahead, Hezekiah. You can reply now.
Let's go to Isaiah 16 and 4. It says, Let mine outcasts dwell with thee, Moab. Be thou a covert to them from the face of the spoiler, from the extortioner at an end, and the spoiler ceaseth, and the oppressors are consumed. Let's keep going.
Amen.
It says, are consumed out of the land, and in mercy shall the throne be established, and he shall sit upon it in truth in the tabernacle of David, judging and seeking judgment and haste and righteousness. Okay, now let's skip. Hold on. Hold on. I'm just reading through real quick.
And Brother Judah, I'm going to get to you right after. I'm going to get to you soon.
Pride of Moab has ceased, and the fields languish, and the Lord's heathen broke down. The principles are gone over the sea. Therefore, beware the judge of my tears. Okay, and gladness shall be taken away, a joy out of plenteous field, the vineyards. There shall be no singing either. Okay, for my bowels are in harp towards Moab, and it shall come to pass when Moab is weary in the high place. The praise shall not prevail. Swear the Lord concerning Moab. Okay, right here, verse 14. But now the Lord has spoken, saying, within 3 years, as the years of a highland, and the glory of Moab shall be contented with all that great multitude, and the remnant shall be very small and feeble.
Brother Judah,
so the whole point in reading Isaiah 16 is in the wilderness, Moab going to be a covert. If we read the first verse, it says, send ye the lamb to the ruler of the land from Selah to the wilderness unto the mount of the daughter of Zion.
All right, Brother Judah, you can reply.
Yeah, it's so many things, but let me just focus in on this one he just brought out, how he just totally butchered Isaiah chapter 16. If he would have had read Isaiah chapter 15, this is Isaiah prophesying about the Assyrians coming to attack Moab. He said, send ye the lamb to the ruler of the land from Selah to the wilderness unto the mount, to the daughter of Zion. This isn't talking about the Messiah. This is talking about a literal lamb. The king of Moab was in subjection to the nation of Israel and rebelled against him. The Assyrians was coming to attack the Moabites, and so Isaiah is prophesying to Moab to reinstitute the tribute that you had with Judah. And do you know what that tribute was? Lambs. In fact, the king of Moab was a master sheep herder. And you could read this in 2 Kings chapter 3, verses 4 and 5. If you notice, the outcast was the children of Moab at first. Notice verse 2. And it shall be that as a wandering bird cast out of the nest, so the daughters of Moab shall be at the fords of Arnon. Arnon is right at the borders of the lands of Israel and Moab. Moab shall be as a wandering bird cast out of the nest. That's who shall be a wanderer. He said, take counsel, execute judgment. He began to explain, Moab, you reinstitute the tribute, and you can find shelter. And then he began to explain, also, Moab, let my outcast dwell with thee, because the Assyrians was attacking the outskirts of Judah as well, and Judah was going to flee to the borders of Moab. How long was this to happen? Until a king sat on the throne and ruled in judgment and justice. Who was that king? This not Jesus. This was Hezekiah. But you have to read the context. It was Hezekiah that the writer said in the books of Kings that there was no king like Hezekiah before him in all the days and how he lived after David his father. He lived during the days of the Assyrians, and the oppressor in verse 4 will be consumed out of the land. This was the Assyrians. That's why the text began to pick up Moab again. This was Assyria coming to attack Moab and coming to attack the outskirts of Judah. The prophet only said that Assyria would not take the city of Jerusalem, but Isaiah prophesied that they shall invade it unto the neck. They shall take all of the country. This is the point I'm bringing out. To support this cockeyed doctrine, he have no clue on the context and the history that is in the text in Isaiah chapter 16. None. See, he thinks the lamb was Jesus. Isaiah ain't say nothing about Jesus. That lamb was the lamb tribute that the king of Moab had to send unto where? To the daughter of Zion, the king of Judah, because if you read 2 Kings 3 and 4, this was the tribute to the kings of Israel after David had conquered Moab. And he no longer stopped sending lambs, and Isaiah saying, you better start sending that tribute again because the Assyrians are about to come and whoop your head. I turn it back over to the host.
All right, let me let Hezekiah reply briefly because we have some more questions in queue, and then we're going to move on to the people. Go ahead.
I ain't going to reply because all that was a bunch of gainsaying and talking. He ain't read nothing. If he wanted to prove something to me, he should have read it. But now the time is up. I yield.
All right, let's go to the people. We got more questions in queue here. Let's see. 314-529. You're live on Debate Talk for You. You have a question or comment?
Yeah, this call again. Ezekiel 20, verse 33. As I live, said the Lord God, surely with a mighty hand and with a stretched out arm and with fury poured out, I will rule over you. The Lord coming to rule, right? Now, as I asked earlier, y'all are not defining the debates. Hezekiah got two things about the wilderness on the table. The Lord coming this time to purge them out in the wilderness and going to the wilderness during the time of tribulation. Y'all are not addressing this right here. Y'all are addressing the time of tribulation. And he say right here, he said, 35, and I will bring you into the wilderness of the people. Judah read this, but he didn't deal with this right as he keep trying to say about Hezekiah just to get him mad. You know what I'm saying? He said, I will plead with you face to face at that time. So Israel got to go into the wilderness. The question here now is, which one are y'all dealing with? The one during tribulation or the one when he come to do this purging? Like I pled with your fathers in the wilderness of the land of Egypt, shall I plead with you, said the Lord, and I will cause you to pass under the rod and bring you into the bond of the covenant. That means you're going to keep this covenant. If you don't, he said, I will purge out from amongst you the rebels, and them that transgress against me, I will bring them forth out of the countries where they sojourn. So at some point in time, the Lord got to come here, and as you asked about the Matthew 24, he got to come here. He got to bring them in the wilderness, and he got to purge them before he take them into Zion, the wilderness you talking about now. So y'all got to address that and start addressing this tribulation thing. Because when you're doing that, once again, you fraudulent and not telling people that you set up under the Israel of God for 10 years and that them teachers over there, as you trying to say, this brother, which you probably know, he sit with Danny and them, that they're liars and they're fake because this $3 bill and stuff. So stop false flagging and not calling names. If you're going to do it, call out names and deal with the stuff. But please deal with this. Is the Lord going to bring them into this wilderness, plead with him before he take them into the Holy Land and purge any rebels out? Or he do that some other time? You got to deal with that. If you're not going to deal with that and just deal with the tribulations, then which one you here to argue? You can't argue both of them at the same time simultaneously. Peace.
All right. Let's let Hezekiah, you want to reply first? Hezekiah? All right, Brother Judah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, you want to reply?
Not to his questions at all. It seemed like he kind of confused as well. I'm going to go back to Hezekiah just for the audience because I didn't read the text because of the time. But quickly, if we go to 2 Samuel chapter 8, and this is pertaining to Isaiah 16. This is talking about a historical event that took, well, to Isaiah, it was a prophecy that was going to take place ahead of him when Assyria was going to come and invade the land. Now, first Moab was subdued by David, and you can find this in 2 Samuel chapter 8 and verse 2. It says, and he, speaking of David, smote Moab and measured them with a line, casting them down to the ground, even with 2 lines measured. He put to death, and with 1 full line he kept alive. And so the Moabites became David's servants and brought gifts. Now we can go and find out what manner of gifts they brought to Israel after they had become servants is here in 2 Kings chapter 3. More specifically, now the days in which the kingdom has split, but Moab is still bringing up gifts in this record to the king here in 2 Kings chapter 3, to the kings of Israel here. 2 Kings chapter 3 and verse 4 and 5, it says, and Mesha, king of Moab, was a sheep master, and rendered unto the king of Israel 100,000 lambs and 100,000 rams with the wool. If you look lamb up in Isaiah chapter 16, you'll find out it is a sheep or a fatted, plump ram. So this is what he brought gifts to Israel with the wool. But notice verse 5. But it came to pass when Ahab was dead that the king of Moab rebelled against the king of Israel. So after a while, he stopped sending tribute to the kings of Israel. And this is what Isaiah chapter 16 was talking about And that's why Moab was like a wandering bird out of the nest at the fords of Arnon. Isaiah was telling the people, listen, Moab, let my outcast dwell with you, but he was also telling the house of Israel, the leaders of the people, Moab going to be like a wandering bird as well. Be a shelter, because Assyria is going to come to attack you both. Now, we can give a full-length dissertation on it, but just to give the audience a background, I read a couple of texts and gave some explanation. But this is what that text was talking about, to show you that these people running out with these prophecies, they're running out with prophecy, and they are bearing false witness according to the scriptures. And they are headlong with this false doctrine, and only thing we're doing is bringing it to the table, look at this alternative. Maybe these people wrong. And I turn it over to the host.
Let me check Hezekiah's line. Hezekiah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. You want to reply to that before we move on to the next?
I want him to deal with the caller's question, because that's what we're supposed to be dealing with, the callers, not dealing with what I said that you already had your time to do. And I'm not even going to address it because it has nothing to do with Isaiah 16. Verse 5, let's just deal with verse 5 real quick, just for the audience. Verse 5, and in mercy shall the throne be established. He shall sit upon it in truth in the tabernacle of David, judging, seeking judgment, and hastening righteousness. Who going to sit on the throne of David, judging, seeking judgment? It's Jesus, and he's just a gainsaying. Now, deal with Carl Albert's question. That's what I want you to do. We're supposed to be dealing with the callers. Deal with the callers. I yield.
All right, there, Brother Judah. Or we can move on to the next question. It's up to you.
You speaking with me? I can't hear you.
Yeah, you can reply, or we can move on to the next question. It's up to you.
I do want to give a reply to him, because this is dealing with the wilderness in Isaiah 16, and he tried to pull this out of the bag, and he read Isaiah 16 and 5, and he said, what king sat on the throne? If we go here to 2 Kings 18, during these days in which Moab was to be a wandering bird, and the oppressor was the seaside of the land, 2 Kings 18 tells us this real briefly, who sat on the throne of David. He said it's Jesus. But according to Isaiah prophecy, in the context of Isaiah is explaining this. 2 Kings 18 and 1. What does this tell us? Bear with me a minute. I'm almost there. 2 Kings 18 and 1. It reads, now it came to pass in the 3rd year of Hoshea, the son of Elah, king of Israel, that Hezekiah, the son of Ahaz, king of Judah, began to reign. Verse 3, and he did that which was right in the sight of the Lord, according to all that David his father did, executed judgment and justice. He removed the high places and brake the images and cut down the groves and brake in pieces the brazen serpent that Moses had made. For unto those days the children of Israel did burn incense to it. Verse 5, he trusted in the Lord God of Israel, so that after him was none like him among the kings of Judah, nor any that were before him. This was the king that sat on the throne when that extortioner and oppressor ceased, according to Isaiah 16 and 4, which was the Assyrians. Hezekiah was left standing. King Hezekiah, that is, not our speaker. So that's what I want to address. I already addressed Carl's Albert question.
All right, we are actually past the 35-minute mark of this debate, but I'm going to take a few more questions, just a few more, before we go into the final statement. Once again, I wish I could get to everybody, every single person, but, time doesn't permit. So let's go to the next caller here. 817-966. You're live on Debate Talk for you. You have any questions or comments? 817. Okay, that call just dropped. Let's go to the next person. 770-896. You're live on Debate Talk for you. You have any questions or comments?
Yeah, this is Brother Joshua from ABT. How you doing, Brother Judah? How you doing, Brother Hezekiah? How you doing, Sal?
What's going on, brother?
Hey, brother.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey there. I just wanted to say, man, I've had a run-in with the KOJ in the past, and I've had a run-in with Hezekiah in the past, so I have no reason to side with any one of these brothers, but I got to keep it real. Judah, you did your thing tonight, bro. I just got to call it like it is. I am in 100% agreement. You are showing that these people are taking these scriptures concerning the wilderness completely out of context. There's no disrespect to you, Hezekiah. I wasn't even going to call in at first, but when you went to that Isaiah 16, and I already knew that was talking about Moab, and when Judah went behind you, because Hezekiah, you just got to read Isaiah chapter 15 all the way through. Judah is absolutely correct about 2 Kings 3 and 4. It's also in 2 Kings 14 and 7 about the whole thing about the king of Moab paying tribute. All of this stuff is true, bro. I mean, I'm beseeching you. I'm not rebuking you. I'm beseeching you right now. Judah is really mastering this whole argument right now. I mean, I don't know if this is like his special area of study, but this particular, I don't know even his whole extent on this topic, but so far, everything I heard, because I teach identical to what he's teaching about the context, how they take this out of context. He's telling the truth, man. Isaiah 15 and 16 is talking about King Hezekiah. Even in verse 5 when it said, in mercy, I know it sounds messianic, but that's talking about Hezekiah too, bro. He's right. He's right about that Isaiah 34, about Judah being a desolate place. He's right about the word wilderness having many different concepts in the scripture. Sometimes it means a desert. Sometimes it means a woodland area. Sometimes it means a place of safety, there's somewhere to get away. Sometimes it means any place that's been destroyed. You know what I mean? He's breaking all of this down. He's taking his time. He's being clear. It seems like you're in a rush to get your points in, and it seems more like Judah is more concerned with context and taking his time to make sure that people can see this in proper light. So, Judah, I got to give you your props, bro. You did your thing tonight. You know, I know how I feel might not mean a thing to neither one of y'all, but I'm just putting it out there anyway. Hezekiah, you need to really get with this brother after this debate and listen to him because he knows what he's talking about on this one. And that's all I got to say about that. That's it. I'm done.
All right, Brother Jude, I'm going to let you reply.
Yeah, I definitely want to commend Brother Josh for coming and saying that. And we have had discussions in times past, and I never said this on the air, but I will say it, and I believe Brother Zadok has said it. We don't disagree with everything Brother Josh says. In fact, there are many subjects that he get on and debate and discuss and have debates with that we definitely are in agreement with as well. So, yeah, we have had our differences, but one thing I will commend him on is that he haven't shown to have a problem to give, credit to where credit is due, whoever it may be, myself or someone else. And I would like to extend this to him as well, that I have noticed that out of all of the people I have seen on YouTube and things like that, he do honestly search to find the answers of the scriptures. So we have had our differences, but as Zadok explained, there's nothing personal with the difference between Josh and us here at the Knesset. I appreciate it, my brother. I appreciate you taking the time out to give that a witness. And again, I'm definitely appreciative of that. And there are many things that you teach as well that we definitely agree with. So I end on that note with that.
All right, Hezekiah.
I just unmuted my phone. Okay, I'm going to just read two scriptures. Jude 1 and 9, it says, Yet Michael, the archangel, when contending with the devil, he disputed about the body of Moses, does not bring against him a railing accusation, but said, Lord, rebuke thee. 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 10. But chiefly, them that walk after the flesh and the lust of their uncleanness and despise government. Presumptuous are they, self-willed. They are not afraid to speak evil of dignities. Whereas angels, which are greater in power and might, bring not railing accusations against them before the Lord. But as these, as natural brute beasts, made to be taken and destroyed, speak evil of the things that they understand not, and shall utterly perish in their own corruption. And I yield.
All right, I was going to take two more callers, and then we're going to move on to the final statement. Once again, I really appreciate all of you guys for asking your questions, sharing your comments. But, of course, time is running out, so I got to, to get two more questions, and then we're going to move on. So far as the classic debate, the wilderness, the number is 877-280-9681. That's 877-280-9681. Let's go to the phone lines here. Let's see who's next on the switchboard. 716-986. You're live on Debate Talk for you. Any questions or comments?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, brother. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, shalom. This is Brother Zadok. My other line dropped out. I wanted to ask this brother my second question, the brother Hezekiah. And I thank these brothers for staying on and not getting too carried away with each other. Hezekiah, in Revelation chapter 12, the woman who was chased by the dragon, the Bible says she was chased into the wilderness, and basically I think it says she took eagle wings and she went where there was a place prepared for her. She flew into the wilderness, and she was there for a time and a half a time. What do you understand that to be, brother?
3.5 years.
And the woman is who?
Israel.
Israel. So that lines up with that scripture kind of lines up with the point you've been making so far tonight.
Yeah.
Okay. So when we go to Revelation 17, and I'm going to start at verse 1, and it says...
That's a different woman. That's a all different woman.
Brother,
it's two women. It's a whore, and then you got the one that God was married to. That's it.
Okay. Thanks. In Revelation 17:1, it says, there came one of the 7 angels which had the 7 vials, and I won't read through all of it. Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication. You did read this earlier to establish that this was the whore of Babylon, the great, who rideth upon this, the beast with the 7 heads and 10 horns. It says, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. And he says, so he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast. So we know who this is. Is this the same wilderness as the wilderness in chapter 12?
And he carried me away in the wilderness. Yes. At the beginning of chapter 12, this is a vision that this dude is seeing in the wilderness. It's the same one.
Okay, so they're both visions. I mean, he wasn't literally there for either. They're all the book is vision. So you're saying
what's the point? What's the point? The point, because get to the point, because I know. Go ahead.
The point is, I mean, you don't have to be combative, brother. I'm just trying to really get some answers from you for the people to be edified.
Well, now, I know, but you're gainsaying it as you're doing it. I'm saying, what's the point? You said both of them, are they two wildernesses?
Brother, I haven't gained. Hey, brother, you done said that word like 5 times tonight. I haven't gainsaid anything. And the archive will prove you to be a liar on that point. Now, the point that I'm trying to make is this, is that you have so much scripture to try and show what the wilderness is, and you said that basically Babylon the Great, and she's on the beast as well, and her and the beast are in the wilderness, and he saw her with her cup in the wilderness drunk. Do you have anything in the scripture to show that this is a literal wilderness, and that this woman, can you show anywhere in the Bible where this woman was in the same wilderness at any time, or will be in the future, like you're saying Israel ran to this same supposed literal wilderness?
You're taking it out of context and you gainsaying both scriptures. You're just taking it out of context. That's all you're doing, and you gainsaying against them. These was visions. Now, let's look at Revelation 12. Revelation 12. All right. It says, and there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed. So this great wonder was in heaven. And then, let's go down. And the woman brought forth, and the woman fled away into the wilderness. Now, this woman, when we go to Revelation 17, John was carried away into the wilderness. Not the woman. Look, and there came one of the 7 angels with the 7 vials and talked with me, saying unto me, come hither. I will show thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. Okay? So he carried me away into the wilderness, and I saw a woman. He carried him in the way into the wilderness, I saw the woman. Here, the woman in Revelation 12, the woman fled into the wilderness. And the woman here is clearly Israel. Let's go over to Genesis chapter 37. Genesis chapter 37. And I'm not trying to be combative. I just hate when people ask questions just to gainsay. You say you're not doing it, but, you know, I've dealt with this thing for a long time, man. I know a gainsayer when I see one. Now, whether you believe you one or not, that's on you. But I know one when I see one. It say, hold on, I'm looking for the part. Okay, right here, verse 8. It says, "And his brethren said to him, Shall thou indeed reign over us? And shall thou indeed have dominion over us? They hated him yet the more for his dreams and for his words. And he dreamed yet another dream, and told it to his brethren, and said, Behold, I have dreamed more, and behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars made obeisance unto me." There go the sun, the moon, and 11 stars, and Joseph make the 12th star. So when you go to Revelation, it's clear that that woman got to be Israel. When you read Revelation 13 Revelation 12 and 1.
Let me let our Brother Judah reply, then we got to move on to the final statement. Go ahead, Brother Judah.
You know, I don't I don't really have a reply.
All right, my brother. All right, so we're going to go into the final statement. Hold on. Zadok, you still there?
Yes, I'm still here. I'm so glad that you just. I'm glad you did that because, hey Sal, all I want to say to the brother Hezekiah is this: the man don't know me from a can of paint. He don't know me from a stranger on the other side of town of wherever he lived. And the man called me a gainsayer 2 or 3 times. Actually told me he'd been in the word so long he know one when he see one, and this, that, and the third. The brother did not show any scripture that could show if this woman was in the same wilderness which he is claiming is Moab and Ammon. If he said in Revelation 12 that woman, you notice how where he went, it had nothing to do with the women. I'm concentrating on the wilderness. Okay, we see Israel. The woman in Revelation 12 was Israel going into the wilderness. He read scripture talking about Moab and Ammon, be a covert, but Josh, agreeing with Judah, actually shot that down. So if, sticking to his teaching, if it's literally Moab and Ammon that the vision was trying to describe in Revelation 12 that Israel ran into protection, is he saying that somehow, sometime in history or in the future, the woman in Revelation 17, who is the whorish woman, Babylon the Great, and the scarlet-colored beast, because she was on the beast in the wilderness, are they going to be in Moab and Ammon? Anywhere in the scripture, in the future, past? He didn't answer it. This brother ran around in circles, man, like he running for the Olympic track team, and that's just not good because he's supposed to be a teacher. So I just proved it just by asking him a question, and he got so flustered, he was breathing hard. You could tell he was trying to read stuff, and as he trying to find scripture, he calling me a gangsayer 2 or 3 times. I think that that's totally out of order, but I got love for the brother because I'm pretty sure we'll run into his kind again, you know. So thanks, and everyone who's listening, pay attention to what the man did. I asked him a question. I wasn't combative, and just notice how he gainsayed me as far as my reputation. He called me a gainsayer about 2 or 3 times. That's about atrocious right there, if I had to say so myself. But praise Yahweh. I'll see you on the first, Sal, guys.
All right, brother. Thanks a lot for your call. All right, so we're going to go into the final statement. Once again, I wish I could get to every single person that's asked a question right now, but we got to move on to the final statements. Once again, there's a lot of people listening right now via phone, and I really appreciate you guys for tuning in to Debate Talk for you to check out this classic debate by 2 teachers, The Wilderness. Once again, we're going to go into the final statement of this debate, and we're going to begin with Brother Hezekiah. This is going to be 7 minutes with the final statement. Let me open up the phone line for the brother. And go ahead, brother.
I'm going to tell you, this is the problem. This is the problem with all them gainsayers that just came on the phone. And I know all them brothers. I be dealing with them on Facebook. So they trying to front like they don't know me and I don't know them. Y'all lying right there. You a gainsayer. Because I deal with you all the time on Facebook. And lying say I don't. So that's all they own, yo. They trying to put stumbling blocks in front of people because they know people don't know prophecy very well. The commandments is in your heart and in your mind, so they can't really gainsay against that. But I'm guaranteed that they don't keep none of the commandments. Secondly, all I was doing was trying to say what the wilderness was about according to the scriptures, and I even brought history to bring in to show you, who's the Pope, who's the abomination of desolation, who is them 10 kings, or the 7 mountains that the woman said. I showed all that. Basically, he just trying to bring 2 scriptures together and try to gainsay against them. See, he couldn't answer the question. It was a loaded question to start with. It was loaded, and I got not agitated, but I just don't like gainsayers. So you finna get a rough response from me if you gainsaying. Now, if you got a genuine question like, where else does it say 3.5 years? Well, then I'm going to be nice and say, okay, well, let's read this here. But I could tell a gainsayer because in Hebrews chapter 5, right here, Hebrews 5, this is where I'm at. Hebrews 5, and I'm going to start at 12. It says, for when the time that ye ought to be teachers, ye have need that one teach you again, which be the first principles of the oracles of God, and are become as such that have need of milk, and not strong meat. For everyone that uses milk is unskillful in the word of righteousness, for he is a babe, and I am skillful. And it says, but strong meat belongeth to them that are full of age, even those by reason of use have their senses exercised to discern both good and evil. So I can discern when you're doing good or when you're doing evil. What they don't understand is that's the power that the Lord give you when you in his word all the time. You see the people for who they is. But when you carnal, you don't see it. Let's go over to 1 Corinthians. Let's go over to 1 Corinthians chapter 3. In verse 1 it says, and our brethren could not speak unto you as unto spiritual, even as unto, but as unto carnal, even as unto babes in Christ. For I fed you with milk. We know what the milk is. It's the first principles of the oracles of God. And not with meat or the harder stuff, these prophecies. For hereto you were not able to bear it, neither yet now are ye able. For ye are carnal. For whereas there is among you envying and strife and divisions, are ye not carnal and walk as men? Yes, that's why you don't understand it. Let's go over to Galatians chapter 5. Galatians 5. Galatians 5. And Romans 8, my fault. Let's do Romans 8. Romans 8, and let's pick it up at verse 5. It says, for they that are after flesh do mind the things of the flesh, but they that are after the Spirit, the things of the Spirit. For to be carnally minded is death, but to be spiritually minded is life and peace. I got peace. I could care less if none of y'all believe what I just read to you. That's on you. It ain't the burden of proof ain't on me. It's on you to believe what you read. It ain't on me. I believe what I read, and that's why I get what I get. It says, but the carnal mind is enmity against God, for it is not subject to the law of God, neither indeed can be. And I guarantee, go down to 613 commandments, I guarantee you they breaking the majority of them. Guarantee it. Guarantee it. Don't keep half the commandments. Why? They carnal-minded. They got division, strife, envy. They get jealous of each other when somebody brings something out. Let's go to Galatians 5 and just look at that real quick. Galatians chapter 5. And let's pick it up at verse 16. It says, then say I, walk in the Spirit, and ye shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. For the flesh lusteth against the Spirit, and the Spirit against the flesh. These are contrary one to another, so that you would not do the things that you would. But if you be led of the Spirit, you are not under the law. In other words, you keep the law. Now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lasciviousness, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, which means division, divisions, emulations. That's being jealous and want to emulate somebody. Wrath, strife, seditions, which means a rebellion of government, and hearsays. Don't you hear all that hearsay they brought tonight? Envyings. They envy each other. That's why some people had to call in, because they envying. They're like, I got to tear them up, because that's what the wicked do. They tear down. They don't build. It says murders, drunkenness, revelings, and such likes, which I tell you before, as I've also told you in time past, that they that which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of God. And that's how it is. It says, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith. I need to work on gentleness. I'm not a very gentle man. meekness. I am meek. I hear you out, but if you again say I'm finna shut you down right where you stand, and it says temperance, against such there is no law, because you keeping the law, you got all these things. And I'm saying that I am still a work in progress. In verse 24 it says, and they that are Christ have crucified the flesh with the affections and the lust. And if we live in the Spirit, let us also walk in the Spirit. I walk the walk and talk the talk. Verse 26, let us not be desirous of vain glory, provoking one another and envying one another. All I came here to do was to preach the word of God according to the scriptures, and the topic was the wilderness. Simple. That's the only reason I'm here. This brother, go back and listen to it. You will see that he gainsayed through this whole thing. He wanted to stick to one script. Why? Let's go look at it. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 28. Isaiah chapter 28. And let's pick it up at verse 13. It says, but the word of the Lord was unto them precept on precept, precept on precept, line upon line, here a little and there a little, that they might fall, or that they might go and fall backward and be broken and snared and taken. Why? Verse 15, because ye have said, we have made a covenant with death, and with hell are we at agreement, and when the overflowing
Okay, 7 minutes is up. Once again, you're now listening to Debate Talk for You. The number is 877-280-9681. That's 877-280-9681. Brother Jordan, I'm going to let you give your final statement right now, but before I open up your line, Hezekiah, just let the people know if they, some social media sites, stuff like that, if they want to reach out to you, and, just give them your information as far as people reaching out to you, brother.
Okay, well, the best thing to do would be, to send me an email at hogic@live.com. That's HOGIC@live.com. That's the best thing to do. If you be on Facebook, you'll see me on Facebook. Just put in the search box Hezekiah Ben Israel. You'll see the Hogic logo, and then just add me or what have you. And you can hit me on Facebook. I'm always on Facebook dealing with the gainsayers and all of that. I got a YouTube. Just in the text box, put the YouTube out. And I don't got all the videos up yet because it take a long time to put the videos up, so I haven't gotten them all up. But it's in process. So everything is in process. Also, we have a radio show called the Hogic Online Radio Show presented by the Hogic Bible Hour, which I got a class here in 10 minutes, but it's all good. We're going to do the class regardless. And you can go to www.blogtalkradio.com/Hogic, and if you want to listen in on the class, you can listen in there. We got Pal Talk, Twitter, over 214 social networking sites that we broadcast on. So any of them, just, check out even hogic.webs.com. It's a bunch of different information. Just Google Hogic. You'll see all the stuff. I say that. Google Hogic. You can see everything, or email me at hogic@live.com. And I just want to say thank you, Brother Sal, for the great show and for the opportunity. And thank the listening audience. You always great listening audience. I love Debate Talk for You. It's my favorite radio show, and I always listening to it. And it's the great show on the internet. And I hope and pray that the Most High continue to grow it to where that it will be completely worldwide, and everybody could get to hear some of this good stuff. So praise the Most High for you. Thank you again, Brother Judah. I do appreciate you taking the time out of your day to deal with this debate, and I hope the listening audience enjoyed it. Thank you.
And once again, I appreciate you as well for coming on Debate Talk for You and bringing forth your knowledge to the listening audience. And we're going to definitely do this again in Season 3. All right, so we're going to go to Brother Judah with his final statement. And, of course, I'm going to have him also give his information as far as how you can reach the brother if you have any questions or if you want to check out his other social media sites. So let me set this timer up. Let me open up the phone line. And go ahead, brother.
Okay. Okay. First, I would like to say thank you, Sal, and I appreciate the time that Hezekiah took to sit down and have a discussion with us. But I also want to sort of say something about some of the callers. because he sort of said something that bothered me a little bit concerning some of the callers. Brother Zadok, for example, he claimed that the callers act like they didn't know him, and but Zadok never said he didn't know him or anything like that, and he claimed about jealousy and this and that. I mean, for example, we have had different discussions with Brother Josh, but Brother Josh came on and he actually said, I know, he had dealt with the KOJ and he also has spoke with Hezekiah, and he came on really diplomatic. He didn't insult anyone. He acknowledged that he knew Hezekiah, and then on top of that, even though we had differences in times past, he himself, like a man, basically, a lot of men wouldn't do that, give any kind of credit to any other people they had debated against. But he even did that to us, where he acknowledged that he agreed with it and he didn't have anything smart to say. He came real, I would say, friendly to the brothers here at the KOJ, and he also came friendly to Hezekiah. So I really think he should rethink what he said about at least those two callers I've thought about. And I like to say I thank again for the callers and taking their time out. They was all real respectful tonight. I think they showed love to us tonight, and I'm greatly appreciative of the whole attitude, that the callers had, all of them. And I am, again, greatly appreciative of Brother Josh. He didn't have to get on and say what he said, but I definitely appreciate that he got on and did that. And he admonished Hezekiah to look at it further. He said he wasn't rebuking him, but just look further, man. Just don't stop there. Look further. And I think Brother Josh gave him some real good advice. I think he gave him brotherly advice. So, as far as gainsaying and all of that, you go back and listen to the archives and see who was really gainsaying. And I think it's really important to read the Bible. Take your time. We have to free ourselves from the shackles of Western theology. They have really distorted a lot of the scriptures. Really, they have done it. And, if the people don't quite understand that you have to go and let the Bible talk to you, you go read it and find out what it's saying and stop adding your own context to it. I didn't get a chance to ask him tonight, but maybe he can think on it. But he made reference to Daniel chapter 12, and there was 2 time frames given. One was for one time and a half of times, and then another one was for 1,290 days. But they make reference to another time frame for 1,260 days. Why are these 2 time frames different? It's a lot of questions they have to go back and re-examine. This doctrine in which Hezekiah brought today is old. It wasn't invented by his teachers. It was going on before his teachers. And we got wind of it. When we learned about it, we had to go back and re-examine what we were taught. We had to take that road as well and admit what was truth and what was a lie. And I admonish to all the audience, line upon line, precept upon precept, true. But before you can do line upon line, precept upon precept, you must understand or research and know about the context of the text you are reading. So, again, you could visit our web page. We have 2. We have one web page that deal with religio-political education. It's the www.thenmp.org. We have another website, thecongregationisrael.net. And we have a blog talk radio show. It's called What Is To Be Done. Blog talk, I believe it's .Nazarene, but the show is called What Is To Be Done. We air on Sundays now at 2 p.m. We were on at noon. Now we're on at 2 p.m. on Sundays, and 7:30 or 8 o'clock on Tuesdays. Just look and see when you go to our page to see exactly what time the lessons start. It's between 7:30 and 8 p.m. on Tuesdays, and right now we're doing 2 p.m. on Sundays. So if you can check it out, we have a 1-800 number, 1-866-78-BIBLE. You have any other questions concerning tonight or anything we have brought to the table, feel free to contact us, and we will do the best we can to answer your questions. We don't have all of the answers. We're not saying that, but we will do the best we can. If we can't answer it at that time, God willing, we do some research and bring it to the table. So that's what I just want to put down on the table today. Thank you again, Sal, and all the audience for having me on tonight.
Help keep the show on the air. If you want to help, you can send your donation through PayPal. The email is debatetalkforyou@gmail.com or through Cash App, $Sal Showtime. Thanks for your support.
Welcome to the planet of debates. Debate Talk for You Radio.